What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from the upcoming UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. Going to be highlighting some of the fights that we watched over the last week and going over some of the questions that we missed from last week as well. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend, the Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I am obviously great. Everybody is, we're all here. We had some fights over the weekend. They weren't necessarily the UFC, but they were some things that we are definitely going to talk about. And I'm very excited to do that. And of course, being here with Thinker is another great time in the chat. You're always here early. Appreciate you, of course.
Absolutely. TJF and Beeb coming in early. Appreciate you always. Yes, again, the MMA winter has been cold and long, but it is coming to an end, folks. I mean, this is the last week, we're going to be going through till we get to the weekend, and finally the UFC comes back. I'm sure everyone is very excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know who's especially excited about that. CTE, I'm not going to miss you, man. Appreciate you for stopping by in the chat there. Yeah, absolutely. But no, yeah, I'm very grateful that it's definitely come to an end, and we're rounding the corner. We definitely are going to talk about some things that are causing some hiccups in the road coming to this card, but there's no card in the UFC that doesn't have some issues going into it. So I'm very excited to talk about all of these. I don't know if I've said I'm excited enough. I mean, I'm just very eager for this. Like, Jesus Christ, this is fun. Let's go.
I would say after 6 weeks, it's hard to contain the excitement, I would suppose. But before we get to the UFC, of course, as we said, we watched some fights over the last weekend. And one of those that you watched actually is kind of interesting. We talked a little bit about it on one of the Friday shows recently. Our good friends over at LFA have a new broadcast deal, and they are now on Vice. So you got to watch a little bit of their first broadcast. Chase, what did you think?
Well, let me absolutely say first that I did not know I had Vice. I did not know that this was something that came in the package that I was paying for. I had a package that I was, family members use, and, it's down on my tab, whatever you want to say. And, I was looking about and I was thinking to myself, we have some sort of cable package kind of deal. It's, shout out Hulu, whatever you want to say. But I found out Vice TV was on there, and I was like, well, son of a gun. They are playing fights on that channel right now, because again, I wasn't necessarily sure. Like, it says streaming on Vice. It's like, is that some streaming Vice Plus? Like, there's always a plus here that has some sort of streaming service behind it. But no, I literally got on there and cable had fights playing. And what is crazy to think is I was involved in the movement. Everybody, including me, was shitting on this move to Vice. Like, what are you doing? What even is Vice? They own the WWE TV shows. Who cares? But guys, I turned on my TV. I magically had the channel. I know I paid for it, but it did appear, and I got to watch fights that night. This last Friday, I watched the LFA, and I had no idea that was even possible. It's so. Shout out to them, because what I think this is a major thing is I think they found a cornering of the market. They looked at all the streaming services. Where did where did it all coincide? Vice TV. All of them have it. I bet. I swear. I haven't done the math yet, but PFL and LFA, they may have been cooking here, and I was hating. But considering that I have the service, I am now on their team. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, this goes back to the same point, though. On the opposite side, the flip side of that coin, I do not have the service, so I am hating. I was looking. I remember we talked about it, and I was like, let me just see if it's anywhere that's accessible. If they were doing like the YouTube streaming / Vice TV thing, or even if they had a standalone version of it. No, it really is just the cable version, and of course, if you can get it in one of those packages, then you have it that way. But it's not one of those things where you can just kind of a la carte it somewhere else. Like, you have to have Vice in order to get it. So hopefully that's going to work out for them. But either way, I mean, you were able to watch it. I mean, was it the production of the quality that we should be expecting from a national broadcast deal?
What I will say, excuse me, is that I was a little, I misunderstood what I was supposed to be watching here. When people talk about LFA, and I don't really catch a lot of these regional promotions here. But what I caught is this, and what I would see is that this is as regional as it gets by my standards, because a lot of these fights that I was watching, I mean, these were the minus 3,000 favorites, and they're supposed to just go in there and mop the janitor who's 2-1, and it's like, okay, good performance is great, but I mean, damn right, you better be doing this, because this is the kind of, these are the fights that happen before they go into the Contender Series. And like, you definitely saw in some of these, like they they teed them up to just come out here and get some lightning quick crazy performance just because they're trying to sell them off, kind of deal. And I kind of respect it at the end of the day, but it kind of, I don't know. I feel like it was a little easier to point out who was not going to make it and who was. And I think there was one specific example that I think, if actually to bring up first, is there anything you want to say about LFA before we go into this real quick?
It's just that I wish that I could have watched it somewhere. I mean, that's like, I don't want to keep harping on it. I kind of said the piece about it. I think that it is a gamble being involved with Vice, not necessarily because of Vice specifically, but just the exclusivity of being on a channel like that. It kind of, you either have it or you don't. So it sort of separates you from the cable cutters amongst us, so to speak, or, the cord cutters, I guess you call it. And I mean, there are some, like you say, that like you have that have a package with it, but like you have to have a specific package that has that, I think. So, I'm going to be without it now. Being a Fight Pass subscriber, I had it on there and now I do not. So that's a little unfortunate. I'm going to miss the opportunity to watch LFA, but hopefully the quality of the fights are good and the broadcast. That's, really all I got to say about it. Did you want to
Yeah, I
share?
was
Yeah,
gonna
let
say
me.
the one that you have is for the next one.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it?
Uh,
Sorry. I'm sorry
yes.
about that. All right.
No,
Well,
you're
then,
fine.
here, there you
Well, the
go.
thing I wanted to point out about the site here, this is the official LFA site. I am on the past events here. Now, notice it does tell me that the event has passed.
Ah,
Other information, nothing. Nothing. You have nothing on the official site about where I can find any of the fighters, where I can see any of the stats, where I can see anything that happened in LFA. Now I just get a picture and I get the synopsis, which this is very common. But guys, if I wanted to go look at your event that I just watched, which I did, and I wanted to go look, and you give me nothing, I can leave a comment though. Where does it even let me? I have to be logged in to leave a comment, by the way. Who's logging into the LFA site, guys? But either way, this is just crazy to me that this is the reality here. But there's not really much that I want to talk about. I just, the spectacle alone of being on Vice TV and me being able to watch it is the main point here. But there is one specific scenario where I wanted to say that, like, the first fight, it was cool. You got to see a dude who, it was very sloppy but can do a lot of creative stuff, and then you saw a guy who, didn't want to get finished, but he obviously didn't have enough skills to win the fight, and then he evidently got finished crazy highlight by the guy. But as I was watching, it was not somebody that I would say is going to be some crazy high level performer unless he gets his shit together. But he was already old. A lot of these people too were very, like, weathered in their careers. Like, one dude was like 2-1 and 32 years old, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, and then he went up against a dude who was 5-1, but it's like he's 35 years old. It's like, what are we seeing here? But
hmm.
so a lot of just wacky stuff going on. I'm not gonna lie, but the fights were fun. I'll give them that. And then the pace was good. Every commercial break you came and they were coming out to the fight, or it was the cornering, and great pacing. Specifically, the second fight of the night, I believe it was two women, right? The one girl was a minus 3,000 favorite. Now there's a lot of story. There's a lot of context to this. Minus 3,000 favorite. Okay, she gets her nose busted in the first round. Now, not the craziest stuff. We saw the heavyweight champ, Tom Aspinall. He was still going to win that fight with a broken nose, or whatever the case may be. But this girl got her nose busted a little bit. The commentators immediately, like, make it the biggest deal ever. Oh my God, that nose. Oh my God, she's gushing blood. She's got blood everywhere. I'm watching it. I don't even know if her nose is bleeding yet. I'm still, like, squinting, trying to see if the shit's happening. Crazy enough. So she's standing striking with this girl. And, again, minus 3,000 favorite. And she stands with her for the entirety of the fight. I have to listen for 3 rounds about how her nose is bloody to all hell, right? And then in the third round, it was iconic. The commentator himself, he's like, man, these judges, I really hope that they don't look at that nose. And they based the whole fight off of that. My dad literally looked at me and said, he's been doing that the whole fucking.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, because I remember when I did the Ryzen New Year's Eve event, which was a good event
Mhm.
overall. There was specific points during that watch along where we were talking about commentary glaze and saying that, like, sometimes they really are laying it on a little bit thick. Like, obviously the commentators are there to tell you what's going on, but also to heighten the action, to hype the fights a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, you can visually tell what's going on as well. Like, you can't have it be so far removed from reality that it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what you're saying is not actually matching what I'm viewing right now.
And so it was just it was even better because the fight ends, 3 round decision. It might have even been a split. I don't know, unanimous, whatever. The girl with the bloody nose wins, the minus 3,000 favorite, of course. So she gets on the post fight and she's like, "Man, I was having such a good time in there. Me and her were talking to each other in Portuguese. My coach is yelling at me to stop. Stop having so much fun. But I didn't listen to him when I wanted to strike. And that's my husband too. And I'm like, you just said like 7 horrible things. You are never going anywhere. As a minus 3,000 favorite, you come in here, you're joking around, you're having a great time. Your husband's your coach. You're not even listening to him. You decide to strike the entirety of the fight when you're a grappler. It's like red flags all over. I probably will never see her in the Contender Series. And she's just one of the main victims of this. It was across the board. You can see things like that, just like riddleness of like the little details that like people that go to the UFC, they don't have these moments where it's like you clearly see the flaws in their fucking game. Minus 2,000 favorite, hats off to her. She won, but mate, I'm pretty sure you were supposed to fucking dog her out in the first round. Like, what the hell? I had 3 rounds and you had a broken nose or something. I had to listen to the commentators tell me that you were about to lose. Crazy stuff. So that one
Sure.
was just one of the main examples. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Lot going on. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. No. I'm just. I mean, it's interesting. It sounds like the card had a lot of like you said, if it was very heavy favorites, then you probably had a. I mean, did you have a lot of finishes?
It did have a lot of finishes, dude. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you were seeing the people get finished like they should have, but there
Right.
were definitely times where it's like, you have these heavy favorites, and then they have these weird ass performances where it's like, who is Joe Schmo to come out here and put up a good job against you? I don't know if there honestly was any upsets because I couldn't even see this on a betting book. This is another thing when it comes to the one that we're going to talk about here in a few, those morning promotions, you can't bet on them. You cannot bet on those. The ones at night I've heard you can bet on. So I don't know if this is some sort of hinky exhibition type things because I don't know. LFA, they got you betting with crypto on their shit. So
Well,
that's
that's always a big red flag to me. Yeah, no, that actually also came up on another event we're going to talk about that I watched, the BKFC card from Saturday. Yeah, certain books have it, certain books don't. I guess you just have to hop around and see what carries it and what doesn't. But yeah, the crypto aspect of it, we can talk about some other promotions that are not doing necessarily so hot with that. So yeah, a little unfortunate if that's the case.
also LFA sponsored by OnlyFans.
Yes, well, that is something that apparently has been more and more lately. Like organizations are doing either their entire events on OnlyFans or portions of their events on OnlyFans. That's not uncommon now, from what I'm understanding. So, yeah, I don't know necessarily how to equate that into the grand scheme of things, but it is a thing.
Yeah, but all in all, this was actually, a decent little promotion. Like I said, very, very quick to it, very quick to the point. It's on a TV, broadcast schedule, so they got to be in and out before the next thing is aired. So even because when it's not, the next show is just going to overlap you, kind of deal. So they got in and got out. Like I said, this might have been, I think it says 15 fights or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it doesn't say it on here, by the way. I'm pretty sure I saw it on somewhere else. There was a lot of fights, but it came really really quick, kind of like a Contender Series thing. We have 6 fights and it happens, and or 5 fights happens in 2.5 hours. This was 15 fights happened in like 4.5 hours, something like that. Like it was decent. And like I said, you can turn it on the TV. I didn't have to be on the computer. I can turn it on in the background, and then I can go do stuff. It was I kind of liked it. Something that I think the UFC is going to be able to benefit from when they come to Paramount Plus. I don't have to be on my TV trying to look for a fucking illegal stream. Like so.
Indeed, yes. I'm sure that's going to be helpful to a lot of people who have been doing it alternative methods. So, all right, fair enough then. So LFA, I guess in the grand scheme, pros or cons, is it thumbs up or thumbs down for LFA on Vice?
Thumbs up, because here we go again with a promotion that knows how to schedule their events around the UFC. They don't have a once a blue moon when the UFC finally goes on vacation. They figured out how to put their cards on Friday. I showed up on Friday or whatever day it was. I might have, yeah, Friday. I was there for it. And, now that I know that that's a possibility and I own the channel, I mean, it gives me a reason to show up on Friday for LFA, man. I might even have to stream it next time
I
that I
was
know
gonna
it's
say
possible.
a couple watch alongs perhaps in your future there. That'll be
Yeah.
good stuff. So yeah. No, and to piggyback off that point, that now, especially since the channel is growing more, I'm trying to do watch alongs as much as possible. Promotions, if you don't have the letters UFC in your name, if you're not affiliated with the UFC, there are 6 other days out of the week that you could be doing your events. Please take advantage of those other days, because there's always, as the sport itself grows, people are wanting fights all the time. Like, if you had an event every day of the week, there are going to be people that'll probably be watching events almost every day of the week. So I know that around here we would be.
You know what I think is also a big part of it? It comes down to conformity. Everybody wants to believe that Friday and Saturday is the day that everybody wants to watch their, sports or whatever. Now, I know analytics will probably tell you the same thing, but, Thursday night football exists, guys. Monday night Raw, what do you like? Tuesday night anything, Wednesday night anything, as long as it's a good product. Well, people are looking for something to do every day of the week. There's more time available than ever because people could do everything online.
Yeah, and also the gig economy and the way that just work is changing. Like, people's schedules are not always Monday through Friday 9 to 5 anymore. So if you're off on a Tuesday, fights on a Tuesday. I'll take fights on a Tuesday.
Exactly. I love the idea for it. I think, just small little things like that, they could really change the game for somebody who's really trying to be an up and coming promotion, but it really takes some big headed ego, maniac who's running these promotions to have some idea like this and, have the balls to try to fucking jump on a network. But it, somebody's got to be able to do it, man. Longbow, listen, I got you, dude. We can get you out there.
Well, I mean, please just take it to YouTube so that everybody can just watch it. But either way, good job for Vice. I mean, LFA for this, apparently. If you're giving it a thumbs up, sounds good to me. I'll have to see if I can somehow, some way get a viewing of that in at some point. But I'm glad that you got to watch the first broadcast of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going into the next thing that I had a little broadcast viewing of, we got one Friday fights. This was last Friday. It's at 6:30 in the morning.
You're a trooper for that one, brother. Yeah, and I wanted to get to this one. This was another one that I unfortunately had to work, so I was not able to hang out with you on your watch along. But of course, if you are not aware, Chase getting up early for these, and if you are an early riser, you should be hanging out with Chase for the watch alongs for one championship.
I'll briefly break this down one more time. I've said it a couple of times. When I first started watching the first card that I watched, I think even the first two, they started at 8:30 in the morning. And I was like, man, this is perfect. 4 hours, get up out of here at noon. And then they started going to 7:30. And I was like, oh gosh, this is really getting a little rough on me. The first card of 2026 started at 6:30 in the morning. Now, granted, they added like 4 extra fights or something like that. I like that. I'm okay with that. Now, next week, it also starts at 6:30 in the morning. And listen to me, Mr. Chatri, I think I said it right. Please, yep. I like to sleep. I would really like to sleep. 6:30 is cutting it. If I see 5:30 ever and it's not in Japan or something like that, dude, you're hurting me, but I'm cool with it because go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's always the issue when it comes to that region of the world and Muay Thai in general. I would love to be doing more Muay Thai watch-alongs. We actually did a very brief little watch of a little Lethway recently. That was cool. I'm interested in it, but good Lord, having to get up the crack of dawn for this, it makes it very tough for this side of the world to tune into these, even if they are for free on YouTube sometimes. Because, I'm always seeing them. There's a lot of like smaller, I mean, obviously that region of the world, of course, it's, Muay Thai, like it's not, the organization is a little bit different. There's like little smaller promotions all over the place that are just running live streams of their stuff. And there have been times where I'm like, man, I could just get up and watch that. But it's like, then you actually have to get up and watch that,
Yeah, that's actually a really good portion of it is, getting up is fun and all. And then staying up is honestly the really hard part because you're looking over and your bed is just right there. And it's like, well, golly. But either way, no, fights are on and they're always good at one. When it comes to this card specifically, there's not too much that I want to break down. I would like to say specifically one thing. This Ubain Hussein dude.
Yes.
He's good as hell. He is good as shit. Brazil is one of these dudes that's really fucking good and carries a very what do I want to say? A very good, damn, I don't even know. But either way, he's very good at what he does. And he gives I don't know why I keep wanting to go back to it, but he's very good. And then Ubaid Hussein beat the living hell out of him. This was, and he's undefeated. I'm pretty sure still. Let's double check. Yeah, I mean he's just a fucking Chad. Yeah. So either way, this guy here, that's the main thing I want to talk about for this one. But great opening for 2026. Like I said, they started at 6:30 in the morning, but they added four or something extra fights to it. So it wasn't dragging on because, like I said, some of these cards are very, very quick. I kind of like the quick in and out version of fight nights. John Anik just recently came out and said the UFC needs to start looking into something like that. I've been saying it for a decent amount of time now. Like, yo, 6.5 hours might be a little better than 8. But when it comes to one, I think four is pretty cool for what they got going here, especially with the length of the fights. Obviously it's 9 minutes rather than 15. But I just saw LFA. They had a very good pace and they did 15 minutes all MMA. So, different things, different strokes for different folks. That's all I'll say. And I thought this was
Yeah.
a very good opening one card for the year.
Yeah, this is always the debate as to, how long the cards should be and how much people want out of their events and whatnot. I mean, it is a large time commitment because, you think about it really when I watch during the day cards, like the ones that start at like noon or something like that, you're still ending at 7:30. You know what I mean? Like you're
Mhm.
basically devoting an entire day to fights, which of course as fight people, we're cool with that. But it's understandable for a more casual fan to want to maybe have a 5 hour block. Like think about the length of any other sporting event. Like, I mean, the 3 hours for a football game generally, maybe 3.5 with halftime. I don't know, like whatever the actual numbers are, but it's not necessarily such a large block of time the same way that these are. So perhaps a little bit of a change of that could be helpful, but I guess we'll see what they do on Paramount. Maybe I mean, judging by the length of the card that we're going to be talking about today, it looks like things are not changing too much in that regard.
True. And then obviously, so that was last Friday morning. This is going into this Friday morning. I'll just quickly read off the synopsis for a couple different things that we got going here. So we got a 23-year-old Warapom brings devastating left body kicks and elite clinch skills as he looks to bounce back from a decent decision or a recent decision loss. And we also got somebody from Myanmar, powerhouse So Lin O in bantamweight Muay Thai.
Oh, hey, wow. Okay, hold on a second now. Solin
Okay.
Oh, that is a person who I am familiar with because of the Lethway that we watched. Apparently, he is quite the Lethway legend.
Well, interesting enough, we also have a 33-year-old national Lethway champion named Man of Steel. So, I mean, this
Well,
might be the
Lethway
card.
action.
Might be the card for you to tune into now that you're a Lethway
Oh,
enthusiast.
I'm loving it. Okay, yeah, that actually might be. Is it? They say it's Muay Thai. Is it
The-
Muay Thai or is it Lethway? Are
it's
they
most likely going to be Muay Thai.
okay?
Yeah.
Because apparently they actually have done Lethway fights in one.
I've
And like
heard that too.
yeah, like I haven't actually caught any of them, but like if they, I mean, like I said, I know that O is, he's got plenty of clips on YouTube of his Lethway performances. So yeah, there you go. This is a national Lethway champion over here versus a Lethway legend. This could be very interesting.
So mind you, this dude has 71 of his 74 wins coming by knockout. So this is just absolutely what you see in this shit. I love to hear it though.
Yeah.
Halfway down the card though, in the featured bout, battle-tested veteran Kun Pani Sor Sami. I'm gonna go with it. Takes on undefeated teenage. By the way, teenage is
God.
the thing here. Teenage sensation Rustam Usanov in flyweight Muay Thai action. So what is key about this, and I think this is what you need to know when it comes to teenage athletes. All around the world, different sports, you have teenage athletes that do a lot of different stuff. When you look where I came from, growing up, I watched the NBA. I would see people come in as teenagers, 18, 19, whatever you want to say, but like they are physically ready for this. Like they are clearly a large human being and athletic as shit. When I hear teenager and I think flyweight, I'm like, y'all didn't even give this dude a chance. Y'all just like threw him in there. Like, yeah, he's like,
Well,
all right, good boy, go. Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. That's the difference between what you're talking about with basketball and something like this. Like in basketball, they're generally not getting punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this dude, I worry about that. But either way, so the 33-year-old Kunpani, older brother of Seksan or Kwamang, enters on a 6-fight winning streak with 27 career knockout victories. Guys, I'm telling you, when it comes to knocking people out, you never really see it happen with your eyes. guys, but apparently they've done it their entire lives. Like I'm not gonna be the one to question it, but this is what the synopsis has on their official website. So either way, and then of course 18-year-old Russian southpaw Unisov brings spotless 15-0 with 11 knockouts. I listen, guys. We might have a show on our hands here, but either way, that's going to be a good one. And then, okay, we got an Italian undefeated Gabriel Leonetti. I like that name. That is definitely Italian. Leonetti.
Sure.
Love it. And then debuting Vietnamese striker, really, Thon Nguyen. Thon Nguyen Ton. Yeah, I like that. Strawweight MMA action. Then we got some MMA coming in here, guys. Love to see it. China versus Japan. So we got China Zhao Zhangdong and Japan's Kazuki Monguchi, excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. And again, we got strawweight kickboxing this time. We got a lot of different varieties. This is going to be, and this is in the morning as well. We'll obviously talk about what's
At
happening
what time does
later
this
on
start?
night. This is again 6:30 in the morning. Everybody, get ready. We are going to be up and early. But
Yep, get your coffee ready.
and then we got Spain. We got Paul Pascal battles Japan's Yugo Kato. That man, these are some. I love these names sometimes, to be honest. But anyway, that's strawweight Muay Thai. Oh, wow, we got Belgium. Gosh, they got one of everything on this card right now. We got Belgium, Alistair Volders, and Mongolia. Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
here, guys.
international affair.
Squares off against Mongolia's Batakir. Batsaikon? Jesus. All right. I love him though because he's Mongolian. He's a Chad. And by the way, that is also going to be MMA if I did not say that. So a lot of different MMA. Like you said, we got the Lethway legends coming in here. We got the Lethway legend versus the decorated Lethway kind of athlete. The street legend versus the actual,
champion.
yes. This would be actually really fun. I don't know if I know I said a lot of words. I don't know if anybody actually was able to pick up on what was actually going down. But once they start putting up pictures, I implore you to go ahead and check out their site so you can see, because they do have a very good site for what I looked at LFA. I couldn't look at shit. I couldn't even tell you one different thing that happened on a fight because they don't have that, information available on their own public site, So shout out one because we got things going down in the morning next Friday. Anything you want to note about this one?
It just sounds like a really good card, honestly, based on everything that we just talked about. I'm excited to see, like the dude, the Lethway persons we were talking about, based on the fact that we've seen him in some of his clips. I'd like to see him in the actual organization.
Hell yeah. And then so going in, this is Friday morning, again, 6:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time is when it will be starting for me. And then later on that night, starting at 9 p.m., we have another one championship card. And this one is this is their more highlighted event. This is the one that, everybody's showing up for the one before, but like this is the one where they got their popcorn ready, like they're just watching the other one, playing on their phones. This is the one that everybody shows up for Saturday night, and they're technically Saturday night for them, not for us. But love to see a bunch of different things going on for this one. But there's just one specific story that we have to talk about, and I think it's very specific to a lot of people in the chat because I've heard this one. Chase, you got the pronunciation. Keep pushing. I appreciate it. I just saw that comment. Either way, so when it comes to the 18-year-old American prodigy, Helena Cravar, we have to talk about her, and I'm pretty sure you were the one that actually brings her up more often than not. So I would like for her to get her moment here. She is a little ways down the card, but she is going to be in a submission grappling series, which is nothing new. This is what she does. She's a grappler, but she's 18 years old, guys, and she's been grappling high-level grapplers and winning.
I mean, if you've been around here, then you might remember our watch-along of the CJI, and she did very well there. She won the whole thing, if I'm not mistaken, as far as the women goes. Now, it was only a 4-woman tournament, if I'm not mistaken, but still, she's a phenom as a young lady, and someone that I was very interested in seeing go on and what she was going to do. And then right after the CJI was when they announced that she had been signed to one, and I was like, okay, she's stepping up into the big leagues early now, which is perfect. So yeah, definitely somebody to look out for in the submission grappling world, and someone that I'm looking forward to seeing again myself.
Well, the real question is, now that she's in a promotion that offers some sort of grappling experience, and then there also is a sort of availability to transfer into other styles. What
Yeah.
are we thinking here? She's 18 years old. Will she adopt another form of martial arts? Everybody always has that first love, and it looks like grappling is that for her. But will she slowly fall in love with MMA? What's the deal?
I mean, this is the big question now, isn't it always? When it comes to these grapplers, especially hers in this situation specifically, like a prime example of this. She is young enough that if she starts striking now, she could be really good at it going forward. But she has to start now. I mean, like this is the thing. Like she has all of these great accolades in the grappling, and obviously that is a good skill set. But time and time again, we have seen performers, competitors who have one very good skill set and they don't expand that to make them more well-rounded, and taking just one skill into MMA, it never really works out all that well except for maybe very specific cases.
Yeah, and see, this is where I think I'm a big fan of her already. And I know nothing about her, but when you talk about all these people that transition just like her, and they have to start early to get their striking, and if they don't, they're never really going to have that game to them, and they got to really be. Anyway, there's two things that you have to, maybe more than two. Look at she's bantamweight, she's a woman, she grapples. Ronda Rousey, Kayla Harrison. I mean, like
Sure.
you can't really argue it. Like in bantamweight, there's not really many people that you could say are like gonna really put up that crazy of a contest against a really dominant wrestler, grappler kind of deal. I mean, Kayla Harrison could just walk in and do what she did to the belt. Ronda Rousey at the time, whatever you want, armbar city, whatever you want to say, she was just dominating with basics things. Does Helena really need to have an extensive arsenal at 18 years old to come in
I
here and win something?
In 2026, I would say so. I mean, now granted, yeah, Kayla is maybe a bit of an outlier on that. And like I said, specific cases, it's a case by case thing. And Kayla also has, I think, some natural gifts as far as her physiognomy or for her physicality goes. Helena, maybe. I mean, it's not impossible, but I'm saying if she does start her striking now, if that is the path, if that's how she wants to go, then now would be the time to do it, because you're only going to keep growing and getting better. And there are performers. You think about your favorite Josh Fan. Only started his wrestling and grappling a couple of years ago, and now he's got. I mean, granted the circumstances, whatever, but he's got a belt now, so it took him far, is what I'm trying to say. Not having that as a limited skill set, so it's not impossible. But I think if she is trending towards that direction, if that's where she wants to go, doing it now would be a great thing to do. Let's see if she gets her win in submission grappling. And when she has a little bit of name recognition in this world outside of just submission grappling, then a lot of options are going to open up to her. We'll see what she does.
I don't know. I think it is going to be interesting to see what her career looks like because obviously she's somebody that people look out for, and she's more than just in the grappling scene at this point. I follow her on Instagram, and I don't know if you guys do or if you know anything about her social media, but she's for some reason she has this look in her photos, and I don't know if it's photogenic or whatever it is, but it's a weird, like, you're in a trance kind of thing. I'm not saying like I'm in a trance looking at her, but the way that she looks, it's like we're like dialed into each other. So I don't know if something's going on with her social media that's like blowing up, but I'm telling you, for some reason, when you come across her thing, when just go look at her photos and you'd be like, why is she looking at me like that? Like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So she's popular for some reason. And, she obviously comes in here and wears all these different outfits. And I think that is part of the character. And I think it is, again, to the popularity of her. I think it might be interesting to keep following up with her. I mean, 18 years old. Listen, Raul Rosas Jr. was manhandling 32-year-old guys. Like, give her 2 years and you're telling me she can't beat Chelsea Chandler? Like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're making a good point here. Absolutely. At the age that she's at, with the already building star power that I think she's going to increase in one championship, world's her oyster. Again, all you got to do is go out and get the wins now, and it looks like she's able to do that. So we'll see what happens in this one, and then what she decides she wants to do after that. Really, it's going to be up to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another thing that I want to talk about on this card. Actually, I guess two more. We'll talk, Rambo Lek, another one of these guys that has these cool ass names and is good at what he does. And you know him for, being good at Muay Thai with a cool name, So obviously show up on Friday night and be ready to fucking watch him, And then his opponent, Abdullah. I don't know why that name's funny. It's just a funny name to me. Abdullah, it's cool though. Either way, gosh, he looks like fucking. Doesn't he look like a Nurmagomedov? Like, Jesus Christ, he looks like Umar.
I mean, Diakaev, so it's
Close enough, I guess.
you
But
know.
either way, there's a guy right here, EC, and shout out 46 vet, my boy Henry out there. He's familiar with our guy from Australia slash Tonga. I don't know if you guys any.
Tongan.
Yes, exactly. Oceania, shout out because he might come in here in welterweight MMA and make something out of himself. He's going against me apparently, but
Chase, man.
yeah, come on, Chase. So either way, EC is somebody else that might be something to look out for. I have not yet seen the people that I'm gonna classify as transition worthy to the UFC, but we are always on the lookout, especially if they're already in MMA. That makes it one step easier. So I love it. I'm excited for our Tonganese fella
Good
here.
deal. Yeah, and so what time is this card?
This card is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, so you got fights in the morning on Friday, you got fights at night on Friday, and a bunch of good stuff on both of them. One championship, we highlight one championship around here because we are fans of the product. So I mean, really, that's why we're putting it out to you guys to let you know about some of this stuff is because we really do think the quality is there. So, if Chase is streaming in the morning, we'll see. I don't know what the schedule is looking like just yet, but maybe I come on for this one. Who knows?
Hell yeah. And shout out CTE for agreeing with me. Her dark bangs and brows make her eyes look extra piercing. Dude, I don't know what it is. I'm telling you, it is like
She got a look. She definitely does have a look about her.
Yes. So I mean, and I think again, it plays into she's a character in of itself. She's the perfect person to have ended up in the CJI kind of pool of people kind of deal. And I think her being able to build on that and make her own sort of career after it is interesting. And she's obviously in a good promotion where she can win 350,000 bots. So fuck it.
Indeed. I mean, really, you could be seeing a star in the making out of her. I mean, this is very true. She's very young and getting her wins early. So, just keep an eye on her and we'll see what she can do in one.
Just be hopeful that she accomplishes everything in grappling that she ever wanted to before she's, old enough to quit. And then she decides to transition into MMA. I think that really is, the ultimate goal for everybody that I see these days. I would hate for them to go do celebrity boxing or become a coach. You can make so much money by me watching you do MMA, I don't know.
Perhaps. All right. Well, anything else on one before we move on?
No, we are good. I think that is it.
All right. Well, then let me bring this over to my side of the world here. I'll bring this back because I want to talk about this right here. This was what I watched over the weekend. This is, of course, Bare Knuckle. This is BKFC 86. This was Lane versus Paig. And for their first event of the year, this was a fun one, man. There were a couple of decent fights on here. Not every single one lived up to what I think Bare Knuckle wants itself to be, but just a couple of things to highlight. Starting off with down the card, this right here, Guilherme Viana versus Juan Figueroa. Now, Juan Figueroa did not have a great performance. Juan Figueroa, they don't have his picture on here on Tapology. He is a very large, kind of stocky, shorter guy, and this is heavyweight bare knuckle. Just the sound of saying that out loud is just it kind of like gives me chills to the idea of fighting bare knuckle at heavyweight. Guilherme Viana, he is the build and the power that comes with that, and to be able to be good at that. Because Guilherme Viana walked right through Juan Figueroa. It was an amazing performance. This guy is definitely bound for being a bare knuckle star if he wants to continue bare knuckle boxing. I also wanted to highlight this fight, not only because of Guilherme's great performance. That guy's probably going to be belt bound at some point, or at least in contention in bare knuckle. But also to say that in the chat on the watch along, we had a former opponent of Juan Figueroa. So shout out to my dude CJ Avila, aka the Panda, who was hanging out with us and is going to possibly be fighting again in bare knuckle. So I just wanted to give the shout out to the homie over there. So that was number one. The next fight that I wanted to highlight, really not the fight, but the performance, is our dude from Tough, Rico DeJulo. This guy is tearing up BKFC right now. And for a while, I thought that he might have been someone I knew from somewhere else because I always remembered the name. But then I realized, had a come to Jesus moment. I was like, I saw his entire season of Tough. he was a tough competitor. And then, for whatever various reasons, he ended up in BKFC and is now on a very nice streak there. He's got great power. He's been finishing his fights. Highlight finish of this fight here against Cornelia. I mean, this was a performance that is going to be setting him up for bigger and better. And as he said, and I love this, he said, I've got power that translates weight classes. And what I said to that is I call him now the Rosetta Stone of bare knuckle. So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Love to hear that.
yeah, he is really doing great things in bare knuckle. So got to give a huge shout out to Rico DiGiulio. After that, the other one I wanted to highlight here was this fight here, this Ras Hilton, or Hilton, I believe it's pronounced, Ras Hilton versus Bronco Busick. This was a great fight, and Busick was doing really well early on in this fight. It looked like he was about to have this thing in the bag, and then in the last minute, Hilton ends up coming back with a come from behind victory and takes the whole thing. And it was crazy to see. It was a two-way action kind of fight. Really good performances on both sides. But Hilton, veteran status, I guess, even though his record's not that great, but he really did some great work in this fight to be able to stick it out and get the victory in the end. So good deal there. And then the only other two things I wanted to talk about really quickly to highlight was the co-main event. Now, this is unfortunately not a highlight in the traditional sense, but I did want to touch on it. This guy, Jamel Herring, is fighting Matt Gaiman. Jamel Herring is a traditional boxer. He comes in from WBC and that sort of boxing world, gloved boxing, traditional boxing. He has a very traditional boxing style. He was a heavy favorite and he won with his traditional boxing style. However, what I say to this is that this might be something that will be to the detriment of BKFC, because what you and I talk about, Chase, all the time on this show is that we are not fans of traditional boxing. We want dirty boxing and we want bare knuckle boxing because that's where the actual action is. This is a finishing sport. This is not a point fighting sport. Jamel Herring was fighting it as a point fighting fight. Like he really had a very, shoulder roll back, get pop two, stick and move kind of a style to him, which did win him the fight. But I don't think it's the style that they want in bare knuckle. So that was just an interesting dynamic that I wanted to highlight. If they get more traditional boxers in bare knuckle, it might not be a great thing for the promotion.
He's from Cincinnati, Ohio. And the only thing that I would like to note on top of that is I remember listening to Julian Lane come out and they said he was from Mansfield, Ohio. The only thing that I know about Mansfield is that there's a prison there. I don't know if it's like a WWE character type of thing that he's had. He's the crazy guy from Mansfield, Ohio. I don't know. But either way,
Could be. I
so
mean,
either way.
maybe he's that crazy. Or maybe he just lives in the prison.
Yeah,
They only
maybe.
let him out for the bare knuckle fights.
True. I wouldn't doubt it. But no, I mean, either way, I would hope that's not the case. That this dude continues to, make a watered down version of what I used to love as BKFC. But he is from Cincinnati. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Come out here and give us another one, kid.
True. Yeah. Well, and what you said is exactly correct. It is a watered down version of the product, if that is going to be the case. Now, granted, Matt Gaiman was not a competitor that was up to the challenge of this fighter. So maybe somebody else is going to bring the fight to him in a way that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge and make him have to work a little harder, whatever. But if you had two of those guys, two of that similar style, it would not be a fight that would be getting the crowd on their side. The crowd was booing this fight. So, so I just, wanted to mention that bare knuckle, tread lightly with traditional boxers coming into your sport. So
Nice.
There was that. And then, of course, the real reason that, aside from just the fact that I watched this card, the real reason that I wanted to talk about this thing had to be the main event, Julian Lane versus Dustin Paige. This was a great scrap, man. Julian Lane, much like Mike Perry, has found a lane for himself, no pun intended, in BKFC. And it really fits very well. And Dustin Paige, I guess he's a former UFC guy, they were saying. I'm sure that I've seen him fight if he is, but I didn't remember the name off rip. Came in here and took to it immediately. And this was just the exact type of fight that you wanted, especially this being for the welterweight title. And, spoiler alert, Paige ends up taking it after a really tough first 5 rounds, I believe, a 5-round fight. And then they go to a sudden death 6th round for title fights. And this was the type of thing that even with that 6th round, it was very, very close. It was one of the ones that I immediately said, run it back. I hope that they give Julian Lane an immediate rematch on this thing. I'd love to watch it again. These two guys are suited for fighting each other. It was a really, really solid performance. So have to shout out both of the guys. Let Me Bang Bro was indeed allowed to bang.
Yeah, I actually really like that he's lived up to something. Like, like it is a meme, but like when I see that video and I'm like, man, that's truly somebody who I believe needs to be in the cage fighting. Like again, I've said this before. Like imagine Nate Diaz working behind the McDonald's counter. Like you could not. It's just not how it would work, man.
Yeah, no, and you make a good point because it's like, especially from the era of the sport when that meme was established, like think of how many fighters that from that era like could be meme worthy and then don't go on to really do much else. They don't expand in the sport. They maybe go regional and don't really have much of a much of a progress. It really is nice to see Julian Lane finding his own in
And,
BKFC.
and then if you're lucky, you become a teacher, and then you actually have a brother who was in the military, and then you have some two idiots who review your movie like 20 years later or whatever. Shout out the movie The Warrior 2011. We did a full review on it. Everybody listening, make sure you check that out. It is a very good time.
And Roadhouse should be coming this week, by the way, as well. So keep your eyes out. MMA on Film, your number one source for everything MMA movie related.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I just wanted to, briefly go over BKFC. It was a great time. Always a fun time on the watch alongs for BKFC. It's really one of the ones that I enjoy doing watch alongs for. Pace of these cards is really good. You move along pretty quickly. You get what you need. And in general, this one was not necessarily like consistent finish after finish. There were a couple of ones that did go to decision. But either way, you get what you pay for in BKFC. It's a quality product, in my opinion.
And then the last thing that I think we should touch on before we move into the official UFC slate, if you scroll down the page just a little bit, I didn't actually know this. Right on the bottom right, Zuffa Boxing's in 3 days, guys. Let's go.
Where am I?
Scroll back up. Right there, Pick'em Fantasy Games. It actually tells you when the thing starts. So Zuffa Boxing in 3 days, guys. Didn't know if you knew.
We did talk about this in the Discord. I'm on the fence as to whether or not I really because I personally don't want to support this. Like I am not a fan of Zuffa, TKO, Dana White getting into the boxing world. What I've said about it a number of times at this point is that the boxing world is a very established world. It's almost like its own entity. The TKO trying to get into this space feels like a colonization of sorts. So I don't know if I really want to support that. However, it is happening in the Apex, and out of at least morbid curiosity, it being on a Friday night, it's going to be contending with one, I suppose. But I'm torn as to whether or not I want to check it out.
It could be over. I mean, depending on how streamlined this is. I mean, if it starts at 6 p.m., I mean, it could end at 9, 3-hour event, I guess. But
starts at 9 Eastern.
Is that no? No, it says it right there. Date time on the
right here on the poster on the bottom.
But on Tapology it says Friday 1:23 6 p.m. Eastern. That's why I can't really see the poster too well.
Yeah, well, it's hard to know which one's correct then because maybe they're saying main card is at 9. That must be what it is because this is
okay.
3 fights in the main card. It looks like.
Okay, well either way, it'll be on. And also, I don't know. There is LFA this weekend as well too. I don't know if. I guess we can say that as well.
Yeah. So I pick your poison, I guess. Yeah, I know exactly. So we'll have to see. Maybe we end up both doing other stuff. We'll have to figure out exactly what the schedule is going to look like as far as watch longs and all that kind of stuff. But we're back. This is, I think, the biggest point. We are back in fight season, people. The winter is gone. Shake off your snow. The winter coats can go back on their hangers. We are back in fight ready mode. And to kick all of that off, of course, the main topic of today's show has to be UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. Chase, how you feeling about this?
I honestly, guys, if I could be real with you for just one moment, people say this card is stacked. Stacked is what I've heard. This is an all right card. I mean, listen, it surely is not a pay-per-view. I'll tell you that. It's surely not a pay-per-view to me.
Well, let me tell you what I think on that specific note. What I think is that this card is stacked in the sense that it's good enough on paper that it could end up being a really good card with the talent level that is here.
I also think it's like, yeah, this is a really good card in context to them holding all the champions hostage for the White House, you
Oh
know?
well, yeah. I mean, and these are the things now, of course, and of course we talk about the next pay per view and the main event of that, and how everybody feels about that too. We know all of the dynamics that are going into Paramount Plus, the White House card, etc. So there are some things to consider with all of that. But regardless, we're getting back into the swing of things. This is the first one that we got. Of course, as you said, this is a non-pay per view now. This is a premium live event, so to speak. This is a numbered event. However, we're going to start referring to these things instead of pay-per-views. But the first one of those, of course, on Paramount Plus. So that's a big thing. Unfortunately, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes was taken off of this card due to a neck injury and surgery that Kayla Harrison has to have. So that really does put a damper on things. Is people were asking, how does that change this card? I'm like, it changes it dramatically, considering that's potentially the best female fight of all time. Maybe, we'd have to see it actually in action to know, but. On paper, again, two of the best, one who is the best to ever do it, and one who potentially could be. But besides those things, I think that there's a lot to be happy about with this. And of course, we can start going over these fights if you would like.
I would actually really like that. Yes, I would.
Well, then let's get down to it.
Oh,
Starting
not that
things
one
off.
though. I
Well, we got to. We got to start it off right here at the bottom. The first fight of that. This is the first UFC fight of 2026. Is Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller. Fugit is 10-5, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are a split decision win over Josh Quillen, a knockout over Yusaku Kinoshita. His losses are KO losses to Michael Morales and Islam Dulatov, and a sub loss to Mike Malott. Miller is 6-0. This is his debut in the organization after one win on the Contender Series. His win was a unanimous decision. He was a guy who I was a little bit skeptical of him getting signed, if I recall, from the fight that we saw in the Contender Series. What do you think about this fight?
That is absolutely the case. So when we watched that episode of the Contender Series, if you recall, everybody got signed on that episode, I'm pretty sure. And it was kind of just like, well, we can't sign 5 people and leave him out. He had a good performance, but it wasn't necessarily the performance that you'd say that's UFC talent. We need him. This is a guy who little bit South American, and Dana kind of loves to have his South Americans on the roster. They fill out a lot of the roster. And he represents America, of course. Shout out to USA, but I think he was here, and I think it was definitely a performance that I was not thinking is screaming UFC, like I said. But if it's against Adam Fugit, honestly, this seems like they want him to have a good win here. It seems a little handpicked. Like, this dude's 10-5, 10-6 is likely.
Yeah, well, that is. I think the matchmaking is perfect for it. That I will certainly agree with. Miller, a guy we're going to talk about another guy on the card, a little bit farther up, who in his last post fight was saying, "Hey, jitters, I came into the organization a little bit off my game, et cetera, et cetera." Maybe he comes in here and does put on a really nice performance. Fugit, I'm trying to remember if he had what his ground game is like. He does have a sub loss, but Miller, I believe, was a very wrestle heavy fighter, if I'm not mistaken. So this could be a little bit more of a competitive affair. This could be a pretty decent scrap between these two, considering that Fugit, kind of a middling talent, and Miller being a debut. I hope, I guess, we don't know enough about Miller to really have the full impression aside from that fight, which was just okay. Fugit, that the losses are starting to creep up. He's at that halfway between his wins and his loss record. That's never a great sign. Again, this could make it that much more competitive. Fugit probably fighting for his job to an extent.
I don't remember in the fight thinking like, man, that Ty Miller has this power, like, damn, or he can crack, anything like that. But I feel like I'm looking what I'm getting from this picture, because I was gonna say everybody put your money on Ty Miller by decision, but this Adam Fugit character right here, he looks like the type of guy that gets chinned by the lightest fucking tap to his face. I don't know. So I feel like Ty Miller might put a really good place shot, and it might not be very powerful, but then you just see this dude fold out of nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck?
Could be. So you're thinking Miller on the money line?
I think, yeah, specifically on the money line. But I think there is a chance for a knockout here, because I do remember thinking his boxing is solid. The power is not something that I leaned into, but the striking, If he places a well-timed shot, I think he might be able to get a knockout here, guys.
I mean, the only other knockouts for Fugit are two knockout artists, though. I mean, one of them being Islam Dulatov, who is a little bit of a newer guy, but still a powerful guy. We've seen his accolades, starting to rack up, and then the other one is Michael Morales, and you know where he's at this point. So
He's 37 now. He just got chinned in his last fight by Dulatov. So, I mean, and then before that, it was Morales. So he's probably going to get chinned again. And it might be the lesser of the people, It just will be a downward slope. That's how it would, that would devolve him. Yeah.
could be, and I always am cautious about backing the Contender Series horse, just because we don't have enough information. But this is a very appropriate entry point for a Contender Series fighter. So if that's the case, Miller, come out here and do your thing, and we'll see what happens with it. Godspeed, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and before we move on, got to give another big shout out to the chat.
Oh,
Lachlan
yeah.
coming in, appreciate you. Jorge Aguilar as well. Didgeridoo Dave, the homie, always. And I don't think Hydra was here when we shouted everybody out before, so shout out to you, Hydra.
Yeah, and shout out Beeb and Rick Allen and everybody else who was here. CTE one more time. Everybody, you guys are just awesome. Appreciate you guys for tuning in for the first fights talked about of 2026 for the UFC.
Feels so good. It feels good to be back in the swing.
Yeah.
I feel like I appreciate that we were able to keep everything going over the break here. But man, we're back in the swing of things.
And shout out Jordy. Appreciate you for dropping and asking when Tom Aspinall will give an update. Probably never, dude. He's hiding from Waldo Cortez Acosta, but we'll talk about that here in a few.
He's been updating you consistently on his social media all the time with his walking stick and his extra thick glasses. Yeah.
They got the whole Ray Charles on, dude.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next fight on the card here. This is Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. Of course, Turcios is 13-5, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are a split decision over Brady Heasted, split decision over Kevin Natividad as well. His losses are unanimous decision losses to Eamon Zahabi and Bernardo Sopai, and a sub loss to Raul Rosas Jr. Cameron Smotherman is 12-6, 1-2 in the UFC. His win is a unanimous decision win over Jake Hadley. His losses are unanimous decision losses to Sergey Side and Ricky Simone.
This is really interesting because while I don't necessarily love Ricky Turcios and I never have been around to be somebody that, I'm pretty sure he's from Florida. Am I right about that?
I don't know if he is from Florida, actually. He might be from Texas, I want to say, but...
Okay. Either way, Ricky Turcios, again, not somebody that I would heavily favorite, but Cameron Smotherman as a prospect, right? Think about what that means. He is a prospect. He is 12-6, guys. He's nothing in the UFC. I mean, this is clearly a layup for Ricky Turcios to stay in the picture because he, for some reason, has some sort of cult-like fandom around him. I listened to a fucking interview of him the other day, and the way that he sounds is, he does have the whole Nate the Train kind of thing going on. Some people are really into that, and the fan base is kind of cultivates around him. So I think this is an easy one.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he does have, I think more so than the Nate the Train, he's got sort of this Zen kind of attitude, or more.
I like that.
Yeah,
hippie.
Yeah, but also that samurai-ish sort of thing. He's got the warrior code sort of thing. I focus my energy, and I visualize, and I manifest my destiny and all this kind of stuff. It's okay, but then you got to go out there and actually do it. And the other thing about Turcios, though, specifically, is that I was one of those people that was drawn to that a little bit. I was like, okay, I appreciate what he's saying and the dedication that he seems to have to the sport. And then he acts like a complete asshole during the Raul Rosas Jr. fight. So I was like, you're not really living up to what you're selling me a bill of goods that you're not living up to with that kind of carrying of yourself. Now, Smotherman on the other side, I was not super impressed with his last performance. Granted, he had a nice victory when he came in on short notice. That was sort of an upset. There are some decent things to like about him, but I don't know. I think that this is also good matchmaking because there's pros and cons on both sides of the equation, and it's really going to come down to style. I think that Ricky is a bit of a sticky guy. He's one of those dudes that likes to get his hands on you and kind of drag you all over the place. That is something that was impairing to Smotherman in his last performance. So if he goes out there and does a similar type of thing with this, then perhaps he does have some success.
This one, I'm actually going to call you out because you've said this a couple of different times about Ricky Turcios in his last performance against, Raul Rosas. Guys, who cares that he didn't want to have a glove touch with him? What's so bad that he did not want to just be friends with Raul Rosas Jr. in the fight? You know,
I mean, there was more than that, though. It
I
was
mean, I agree, but it's just one performance, where he clearly didn't like somebody, or there was something other going on.
But that's the thing is that it would be one thing if that's how you always carried yourself, but you specifically carry yourself as like a person who lives by the warrior code, and then you completely go against that by not having like the respect that a warrior should pay to the fight.
I hear you. I hear you. But, everybody deserves more chances. He seems, I don't necessarily hate him for that. He got submitted, I mean, he
True.
acted like an ass and he took his ass whooping and got choked out or whatever you want to say. So,
Yeah, he paid for it. You're right.
exactly. Humbling experience. So maybe he's over it. We got to see, maybe he's still, if after the next performance, you still feel the same way. Okay, I feel that. But like, give him a chance to be humbled, let that happen.
And I want to. And you say where is he from? Florida, Texas, whatever. Where I know that he is from is the Ultimate Fighter, and I did watch all of his season on that, and I've liked him since then. So I would like to see him do well. But you yourself have made the very clear point, and one that I think is very true. We have not seen a lot of success out of the Ultimate Fighter lately.
True. Yeah. And one of them just popped for PEDs, and he's now suspended for 30 months or whatever. Muhammad Usman, it ain't looking too good, but this is a note to all of the Ultimate Fighters. Like, the level has to be raised, guys. I mean, you are out here being seen as the TV personality, section of the sport. People really, they just don't take you serious, and like they know that they can match up a low level guy who came from the Contender Series who has 6 pro bouts, and he will take on a guy from Tough who has spent 12 months in a fucking house with 18 other sweaty dudes. Like, what does that even matter? Like, the dudes that really get it done, they're proving it to us, and they don't have to go on a whole fucking TV show run where the UFC has to promote the guy that they think is going to be the most valuable to the marketing of the show. Whatever you want to say like that. Like, Ricky Tercios, just come out here and win the fight. Long story short, god damn it, because Cameron Smotherman is not that fucking good, dude.
Yeah, well, and again, his last fight, Cameron Smotherman, we saw him getting manhandled all over the cage. I mean, he was, had his opponent wearing on his back for a lot of it. This is the exact style that Tercios can utilize and then also get some decent striking off. Really, I think that Tercios just has to be defensively sound. That's the only thing that I would say about this is that if Tercios can come out there, get his shots, keep his chin tucked, make sure that he's not taking massive headshots, really, more than anything else. Smotherman will rip to the body. So, I mean, you do have to be a little bit savvy as to where you're defending and whatnot. But really, just be defensively sound, get your hands on him, drag him all over the place. This can be a performance that you could actually hang your hat on a little bit. So, all of that being said, who are you going with?
I'm going to take Tercios, and I'm going to actually say this fight goes to decision.
I could not agree more. I am also taking Tercios, and I also believe that this will be a decision. But again, for the first time for the year, I can say this, Chase. If you are watching out there, people, both Chase and myself are streaming to our individual channels. So if you have, once we start differing on our opinions, if you have a person who you agree with more, make sure that you like the stream of the person you agree with.
And chat, I am actually trying. I'm going to hope to. I'm going to hope that you hold us accountable and make sure you let us know who's up. This year, 2026, we will do the official tallying. And we'll, at the end of the year, that's just another thing that we have to go over for the yearly awards. Who took home the most wins? Who was the dub unit when it came to last week's fights?
I like it. All right. Well, big assertion on the show. I'm going to leave you in charge of keeping track of all that. All right, let's keep it going here. So yeah, Tercios for both of us on that one. Moving on to the next one here. Of course, the big kings are back, people. This is Josh Hokett versus the GOAT, Denzel Freedman. Hokett is 7-0, 1-0 in the UFC after one win on the Contender Series. His win is a knockout over Max Jimenez. He has 5 finishes in his last 5, 4 knockouts, and 1 submission. Freeman is 7-1. He is 1-0 in the UFC. His win is a unanimous decision win over Marek Bujlo in one of the worst fights of last year. He is a PFL and LFA alum.
One thing, PFL and LFA is that what you said?
Correct, yes.
Hokett is also from LFA, by the way. And so if you remember at the beginning of the show, I was letting you guys know that LFA seems to be this promotion where you go in there and they give you some fucking loser and you whoop their fucking
They're
ass,
they're
you know?
teeing you up to knock it out of the park to make you look really good and then send you on your way, right?
But, and when I say that, and then when I tell you this fact, that both of these people had multiple fights in LFA, they needed multiple layups for them to get this opportunity in Contender Series. I mean, especially with Hokic. I mean, you would think with his personality, he would be able to get something off of, what he was. But either way,
Do we
PFL.
know if he was doing? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do we
Yes,
know
you're
that?
fine.
Do we know if he was doing that in LFA? Has he always been this
I don't.
character?
I don't think so because he
Yeah,
was he was just some jock in a locker room on an NFL team for something.
that's why I was
Whatever.
curious if he started. When the whole Randy Savage thing started with him. But yeah, just curious about that.
Might be a good thing. Might be a good story to look into. But either way, the funny thing about this is when you look at Josh Hokic and you look at the hype that's around him and the story and the context, whatever you want to say, none of that matters because in his first UFC fight, I saw him get kicked in the leg and he did not look like he was prepared for that. And I think that is very key because, leg kicks is something that you have to just be willing to take in practice, and you have to learn, you have to know that it's going to help you later on. Somebody that I can tell you did not get a lot of leg kicks in practice, Zhang Min Yang. I mean, these dudes
Facts.
sometimes they get all the way there and they forgot that they could be kicked right in their fucking calf or right in their shin. Josh Hokic got all the way there and some fucking like, bro, Maxi Menace, he listen, like I said, he did just enough. He didn't have to win that fight, but he proved that there is a flaw in this dude's game. Like, okay, he might be able to wrestle, he might be able to take somebody down, he might have some good striking, but man, he started limping off of one leg kick. And now what I would like to admit, Denzel Freeman is not good, but what he can do, he can kick. He can kick a leg, and he can kick a leg, and then he can kick high. I'm not saying it is a golden path to victory, but if he's able to do something like that, listen, he wins on the feet because Hokic's not going to be able to touch him. I mean, Freeman's not going to be, he's on the outside doing his game, and he needs somebody that's able to, track him down. That's not going to happen. And even if Hokic does, I want you guys to understand this. Denzel Freeman has a submission win over Steven Asplin.
Oh my God, you
I'm,
keep going back to this.
but another reason, listen, I want to believe that Steven Asplin is actually somebody good, right? And not just because he's winning, but when it comes to being good, it's about what is good talent, right? He confidently said, Denzel Freeman, he's gonna whoop Josh Hokic. And I know obviously he doesn't like Josh Hokic, but like it seemed like he was like, dude, Denzel's gonna whoop you, bro. Like I
And
don't
I
know.
mean, look, it could be another situation. Again, I'm trying to give some of these newer guys a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because it is a big step up when you go to the UFC. I mean, this is the premier organization. When they talk about the big lights, this is what they are talking about. These are the big lights. So perhaps Freeman, just coming into form in the last fight, maybe I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, perhaps. But Hokitt, on the other hand, he came in and took it by the balls. I mean, he really came in and put on performances. Again, he has 5 finishes in his last 5, 4 of them being knockouts. So I mean, when you're saying, oh, he's gonna, Freeman's gonna be able to stay on the outside and just get these leg kicks off, I'm like, Hokitt is gonna, maybe he'll wince to one of them, but that's gonna be in service of getting past and getting to the, getting his hands on him.
Nah, bro, I don't see it happening like that. I see this dude getting leg kicked, 3 times, and then he does not have that blitzing ability that we saw. He Maxi Menace. Listen, this guy. I listen. Denzel Freeman. I think Steven Asplin. Listen, you can't even argue that he's not. It's not like he's just some random jobber. Like he is somebody that has stock right now. Like so, he has a win, not just against him, but he got him to the ground, and then he was able to use jujitsu to win the fight. So Denzel Freeman clearly has something that we don't know. The what we saw in the first fight. Now I'm not gonna say I'm 100% locked in, but I think what Denzel Freeman has and what I know is fact. I think those are the key things that can beat Josh Hokic. Leg kick, kick high after he starts thinking you're gonna kick low. And if he takes you down, bro, you got jits, is apparently what the case is.
I mean, all right. You're saying you're not 100% locked in. It sounds like you are.
A wrestler who does not have the superior striking and or the grappling chooses where he will lose the fight. I think Denzel Freeman is going to be able to win this one. I'm
But
just
I
saying,
don't
man.
understand how you're saying he doesn't have the superior striking when he has the superior striking.
I don't think so. I mean,
Uh,
Denzel Freeman is
all right.
clearly he's technical. He's fine. He know like you can he throws it and he looks fine when he does it. Now, I'm not saying that he's able to engage and go out here and knock somebody out, but he looks like listen, he'll do that sparring shit. You know, that's fine by me. And if Josh Hoka can get a hold of him, I mean, he might have some grappling that we don't know about because we haven't seen it yet. But it is there on paper that he submitted a guy who knocked 500 strikes on a dude in heavyweight division. You know, like
It is true. I mean, I cannot take that away from you. And if you are going with Freeman, and this turns out this is going to be a galaxy brain pick right here. All right. I mean, I guess that being said, is that your final call?
I'm gonna go with Denzel Freeman by finish. And listen, you guys can mock me for the next 5 days, and when it comes true, I'm telling you right now, it's because this right here works.
All
So
right.
Denzel Freeman, let's go.
I cannot wait to see how this one goes. I am going to go with Josh Hokett. I think that Hokett has shown everything that I need to see out of him based on all of what we have seen from both men. Again, I sat through the entire Mark Bujlo fight. You did as well. We both we reviewed it on the show here. This was a comical performance as far really was. I say, I wasn't even joking about it being one of the worst fights of last year. It really was one of the worst fights of last year.
I said the same thing as one of the worst fights that I've ever seen of all time. But genuinely, you can't just say like, oh, that's just a normal bad performance, right? That is like the one of the worst ever. That is like what I would say. Like that is a true off night. Like you must have really been off if you couldn't have done a lick of anything. Like I don't know. That's
Could
just my
be.
I don't know. I
It's
really
even
I
the best
hope he's
have them,
watching.
Yeah, well, that too. But even the best have them. We talked about Nazim Sadikov, one of my favorites, and who looked terrible in his last fight. Hopefully, he comes back and has amazing performances again. Perhaps Freeman comes out here and shows the world why he is here. So fair enough. All right, I guess that's final answer then, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, same with myself. So you're taking Freeman, and I'm taking Hokett. All right, to round out the early prelims here, crazy that this is on the early prelims based on both of these fighters in this fight, but love this fight. This is Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Oh, lose Chase. Oh, Chase dropped, and you back? Hello?
Oh, Chase Space is back,
Yeah,
everybody. You can hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a little strange. All right. Well, now that Chase is back, let's get into this fight. Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Johnson is 25-19. Good Lord. 4-1 in his last five. His wins are over unanimous decision wins over Daniel Zellhuber, Darius Flowers, and Mark DeCasey. He has a knockout win over Atman Azaitar. His loss is a knockout loss to Diego Fajeda. He is currently on a 3-fight win streak. Hernandez is 18-8, 4-1 in his last five. His wins are a split decision win over Austin Hubbard, unanimous decision win over Kurt Hollabaugh, knockout wins over Chase Hooper and Diego Fajeda. His loss is a split decision loss to Damon Jackson. I have LOL in parentheses next to that. He is also on a 4-fight win streak himself.
This one is interesting, and this is why this is, I would not be betting on this fight. And I'll tell you why, because this is an interesting situation where you have somebody who, in Michael Johnson, at his age of 39, genuinely has good hand speed, genuinely has decent power still. Like he is still somebody that is a threat on the feet. And then across from him, you have Alexander Hernandez, where he's in a situation where you are hopefully, rightfully hoping that he finally has everything together. Like he's now on his way to something good. But the fact is he's right in the situation where if he loses this fight, you still can say he just wasn't ready. He still just fell back on what he lost or what he did before, that he still just won't get around to it. Like he did it again. Like he fooled us once again. But after this one, I think it's like true. Like, oh, he's okay. He does have it. Okay. He's good. He's going for it, kind of deal. But that's why I would not put money on this one, because I still think it's a coin toss if Alexander Hernandez is truly ready to just like actually take off. Because what I see here, I see him just holding Michael Johnson down after he gets popped up for the first round. That's my opinion.
Could be. I mean, you're saying, no, it's like he's not ready. He's not ready. He's 18-8. Like at some point, we got to be past that as a thought process, I suppose. But I hear what you're saying. And I'm not saying that you're wrong in the assessment. It's just, it's like, when does that have to
Mhm.
change just by the nature of where he is in his career? But on the other side, Johnson, I mean, good Lord, to have a record of 25-19 is just an insane thing to be able to say in general. But again, a guy on a 3-fight win streak and a dude who just smoked what at the time was a hot prospect in his last fight. I mean, Zell Hooper was a dude who was coming off of what a lot of people thought was a fight of the year from the year before. I mean, like, it's a crazy thing. Johnson is another one of these guys that defies his age, but he is very, very spotty. It's like it's unfortunate. Like he's one of those dudes that wins over guys that are the elites and then loses to randos. And it's a hard deal here. Which Hernandez is going to be in this performance is also a question. You've got a guy who, on our year-end wrap-up from last year, I had put as one of the people who I thought his stock rose tremendously. I mean, he had, he's on a crazy win streak right now, knockouts involved in that win streak. He's putting a lot of those pieces together of the puzzle that you've been talking about, like where he's at, in his trajectory. This is like a must-win situation, in my opinion, because if not, then he is going to slot himself in as a middling guy forever. Hernandez, I'm talking about.
Um, and I agree. I think what this is prime example of is this is the UFC showing they're dangling it in front of our face. They still have hope that Hernandez could somehow be some champion because Michael Johnson, again, a resume builder. You fight him, you beat him. That means something when you look at the Dragon Scroll at the end of the career. Michael Johnson on there. That means something. Now, him being 39 years old means, yeah, we want him in this fight, but we want Alexander Hernandez to be something after this. Like, that's why we're giving him a 39-year-old opponent. Chase Hooper obviously was a younger, a little more inexperienced, but obviously a proven opponent, and he fucking flatlined him, of course. But, like, the fact that they give him Michael Johnson after this, I mean, it's, I don't know. That's kind of easy for him, I would say, because he could just hold him down the entire time. I think Michael Johnson trains with Usman, but I don't care. He's not getting up like Usman. I don't think.
Could be. I mean, Hernandez is not really a guy that goes in to hold people down, though. I mean, like that's
That's what he did to Kerr Hollaba.
Yeah, I guess that is a good point. Again, maybe versatile, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because my thought process with that was that if you remember the Chase Hooper knockout before that was not an overly exciting fight. Like it was
Mhm.
a lot of strategery going on Hernandez's side, and then he just found the exact right shot and landed that shot. Um, that being said, if he is going to try to play that overly cautious backing off kind of thing, try to play it on the outside, Johnson will hunt him down. So I agree with you. I think this is a very hard fight to pick, probably one to stay away from as far as betting goes. But of course, we're doing predictions, Chase. So what are you thinking here?
This one, I'm going to take Alexander Hernandez by unanimous decision.
I like it as a choice based on what we have been seeing out of him lately. And, maybe a little bit of bias just being a longtime fan. I'm going to ride with Michael Johnson on this one. I think that this is, yet another one where it could be another prospect killer type situation, even though obviously Hernandez, we just talked about where he's at in his career and all of that. Michael Johnson, if there's going to be a person that will upset the thought process, if you're thinking that Denzel Freeman's going to be the guy to upset the thought process, then I think that I can at least throw a bone to Michael Johnson on upsetting the traditional narrative.
I'll give you that one. Shout out Michael Johnson, but I am still going to take Alexander Hernandez.
I like it. I think that that's okay by me. All right, well, moving on to the proper prelims here. This is Alex Perez versus another Johnson. This is Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Perez is 25-10. He is 1-4 in his last 5. Knockout win over Mateus Nicolau. His losses are a unanimous decision loss to Mohamed Mokaev, sub losses to Alessandro Pantoja and Asu Almabayev, and a knockout loss to Tatsuro Taira. Johnson is 18-7. He is I think this is okay. Sorry, I have a wrong there. He's 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are unanimous decision wins over Jake Hadley and Sumadarji, knockout wins over Josh Van and Lonnie Kavanaugh. His loss is to Ramzan Temirov, who was, of course, on the gear at the time.
Yes, and he was retroactively suspended or whatever the hell it was. But unfortunately,
Correct.
the loss was not taken back by the commission, unfortunately. So yeah, so
Indeed.
it could be 5-0, whatever the case may be. I mean, it was a decision loss, so whatever you want to say. This fight is interesting because while Charles Johnson, again, proven vet, he's going against somebody who's not a prospect. This is not your traditional guy that he's normally beating. You know, Alex Perez, though, never really was anybody that I was keeping an eye out for. He never, the first time I saw him, actually, he got the knockout against Mateusz Nicolau, and I was bought in. I was like, damn, this dude's kind of good, whatever. And then I saw him get injured against Tyra, and I was like, yeah, never mind.
That's I
This
was
dude's
wanted to.
frail.
I wanted to say that too. Is that when I say a knock, it's more TKO loss because of the
Yes.
injury in the Tyra fight. Just to clarify that. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, you're fine. And then, he came back, and the last performance that he just had against Asu Amabayev, I bought into it. I really like his style. I actually like he truly does have like a marauder style to him. He just walks in and throws bombs, and then he just it's funny because they classify him as a grappler, and he's definitely not. I mean, he's been subbed plenty of times, and he's never really trying to grapple himself. He's always trying to strike with people. Shout out to him, but I think this is a good performance that he could have against Charles Johnson because, again, they're both going to be striking, and Alex Perez has that. He's just going to dog it out. He's going to get in your face, and he's just going to walk you down. But Charles Johnson, long range, he's going to be able to pop him. I mean, he's just going to be able to pop him all over the fucking cage. Will he finish him though? It's crazy for me to say. I know Alex Perez is somebody who gets finished by slipping on anything, but I think he might get to decision here. I think we might get a Charles Johnson decision because I mean, he knocks out prospects, but he doesn't knock out these veterans, guys. Come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does have a knockout win over the current champ. We, cannot
It's not
deny
a
that.
veteran. It's a
Yeah,
prospect
fair,
still.
fair enough. But I mean, look, you talk about the marauder style of Perez. I mean, I think that the interesting thing to me in this fight is that for the longest time, Johnson had that style where he was just a run and gun guy. Like if you go back to some of his earlier fights, like I mean, not earlier, but like maybe like 2024 ish range, 2023, like he really was a guy that just went out there and was like balls to the wall, just go 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 go. And I think that over time he has kind of come into his own in a little bit more of a way. Like I think that he's a little bit more comfortable now. He's a little bit more like
Methodical.
yeah, methodical. He unfolds himself in the fight a little bit more. He sets himself up a little bit better. He's not just trying to bite off the head of his opponent from the second that he's in there. Yeah.
To be fair, that's kind of why he lost to Temerov. He never got going. He was just always the gear behind where he was supposed to be. He never took flight, like whatever you want to say.
Well, yeah, but the gear behind Temerov was in an injectable form. So
True.
fair enough, though. I mean, you make a good point with that, and I'm not saying that's not necessarily a possibility for Perez to have that same type of thing. It depends on what Johnson wants to do in this fight, and if you
Or how
go
many
back to
roids he wants to take.
perhaps, but he is very, very adamant about being clean. He's especially after the Timarov thing, he came out, doing a bunch of interviews saying, how much bullshit he thought that was. So, yeah, whatever the case may be on all of that. But if you look at the losses that Perez has, I mean, it's the last five at least, or the last four that he is coming off of. You've got big names that he has lost to now, aside from Almabayev, who's maybe a middling one there, but you've got Makayev, who's got a lot of name recognition at the very least. You got Pantoja, the now former champion, going back for a shot at it again, and you've got Tatsuro Taira, who's going to challenge for the belt. So this is high level competition that Perez has been facing here. I think that this is a good fight on paper at the very least. What's going to actually happen in it is going to be a little bit of a toss up, but it's like you said. I mean, Johnson has a set of attributes at flyweight that I think are very advantageous in his height and length. Like he's able to move extremely well. And now with the style that he has, if he can get himself into gear early in this fight and, just have a comfort level that is going to allow him to do what he wants to do and be aware of what Perez is bringing to the table, I got to ride with my guy, Charles Johnson.
Guys, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I like the fighting style of Alex Perez. Now, I will pick him to win this fight, albeit his body does not spontaneously combust in the fight like it has in the past. So yeah, I'm gonna take him.
You must really like this guy's fighting style because all of
I
a sudden
do,
you're a huge Perez fan. We've been hearing this
dude.
multiple times.
I do. I mean, he guys, it doesn't take much. If you walk in hard nosed, throw some punches. I mean, guys, you can make a fan really easily if you don't act like a fucking punk in the cage. Alex Perez, listen, 33 years old, he's still got a chance, guys. He's still, I know he's 25-10, but he ain't gonna get no belt or nothing like that. But like, there's still a chance where he could put on a performance that you're like, I see the vision. You know, if there was a time and a place where he could have stayed healthy and the right trajectory, I just want you to be like, there, I see it. Like, I see the good fighter right there. That's all I'm asking.
I hear you. You know, fair enough. I'm not hating on the guy at all. I mean, like
Mhm.
I like him as well. I think again, I think he's been dealt a tough hand. He's been going up against tough opponents, so it makes sense that he is where he is right now. I think the 1-4 in his last five does not tell the story of the fighter.
I think he was beating Asu. I mean, that's what I was thinking. You know, up until he got submitted in the third round, like I was thinking, like, man, he might be up 2-0. You know, like that's a
True.
crazy performance.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's not out of the question, but I just know that Charles Johnson is a dude that I've been a fan of for a while. He's a guy that is, he's very tough, and I think that with this new kind of more plotting style that allows him to be a little bit more self-aware and aware of what's coming at him, I'm going to be sticking with Charles Johnson on this.
One last thing, I
Yeah,
think another reason why I like Alex Perez so much is like there's fighters out there who, you know, they don't claim to be the smartest, you know, they don't claim to have this crazy fight IQ. They just go in there and fight, you know, like they don't. When I see Alex Perez, I don't think of a guy who's like, man, he's really out there just like 4D chess. Like, no, he just fucking sees what happens, you know. He just goes in there, and if he loses, he loses. You know, if he wins, like, damn good. It hasn't happened in a while, but if he wins, cool. If he loses, another day at the office, you know. I mean, he doesn't. I don't know. I like the fact that I don't feel like he takes it, you know, to heart too much. Like, obviously, you want him to take it serious, but at the same time, he's not in there thinking he's going to be the fucking greatest of all time. He's a fighter. He's just here to get a paycheck. And Charles Johnson is a good opponent, and he would love to get in the cage with him, it looks like. And I like that about him.
well, do you think that a little fight IQ could have had him land better when he was going down with Tyra and not been out for multiple months?
Well, the thing is, it's not even just about that. Is like that first instance, yes, he had somebody on him where he did not fall down and then injured himself, of course. But then, you know, two fights later against Asu Amabayev, he's in the same situation where he's in a standing position with somebody on him. Like, dude, just get at, like, figure something else out. Why are you just trying to hold them up, like, and trying to do all this shit? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fight IQ, I would definitely say, is an issue, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for him throwing hands and, you know, getting his face in the mix.
Sure. And, you know, I say that like we didn't just see one of the most dominant champions in the sport have a similar situation. So I'm just, you know, I mean, I'm obviously I'm
Facts.
kind of
I
naming
know.
it
I
that
got
way.
you.
But yeah, all right, cool. Well, take Perez if you like. I'm good with that, and I'm going to go with Johnson. And again, of course, you know, if we're going in two different directions, you let us know who is more correct here, folks. And of course, we'll find out on Saturday.
And of course, shout out Bleeding Edge MMA. You are the man. I see you in the Discord going crazy lately. And yes, the seasonal depression is over because we have Nikita Krylov fighting next, guys.
I was going to say, you know, you were just talking about how you can make a fan out of someone. This is maybe the polar opposite of that, because I know that Nikita Krylov was getting talked up a good amount, and you have not been very impressed with him. But let me run it down real quick, and we can get into it. Of course, shout out to Bleeding Edge. Appreciate you, brother. So Nikita Krylov is fighting Modestas Bukauskas. Krylov is 30-11. He is 3-2 in his last five. His wins are unanimous decision win over Volkan Uzdemir, sub win over Ryan Spann, a knockout win over Alexander Gustafsson. His losses are KO losses to Dominic Reyes and Bogdan Gushkov. Bukowskis is 19-6. He is 4-1 in his last five. Another person who I had on the stock racing list last year. His wins are split decision win over Iwan Kutilaba, sub win over Marcin Prachnio, KO wins over Rafael Sequeira and Paul Craig. His loss is a knockout loss to Vitor Petrino, and he is on a 4-fight win streak.
Now, this fight it's not very interesting to me. I mean, it is in the fact that we're going to get a very fast, probably knockout, because Nikita Krylov puts his face into punches. He has the, somebody in the chat earlier came in and said Manuel Torres is going to be a very big thing. And the reason I disagree is because he does the same thing Nikita Krylov does. They throw a 1-2 and then they overstep on the 2. And it's like you just leave your face right in the fucking action.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes just blasted this dude when he fucking did that. And it's not even like the craziest read ever. It's a very basic thing. It's just a pull count, whatever you want to say. Nikita Krylov at 30-11 pro wins. I mean, he is the marauder, that is, he's got like a 92% finish rate or something like that. Like, the dude is genuinely good at one time, but it's not anymore. Modestas Bukauskas, when you paint the picture as what it was, you are right. He has actually been doing a lot better than I want to give credit for, because I remember the one performance against Ebo, right? Did he go against Ebo and they did nothing against each other, or am I mistaken?
No, that the Ebo one was Billy Elikana, I believe, but I don't know if I remember a fight where he was in that was like not necessarily like a blazer,
And
but
yes, and that's the one that I feel like I remember most about him. But you are right. He did go in there and Paul Craig tried to fucking pull guard on him and he smashed his fucking head in. Loved that one. And then, of course, the Sakara one. And then the Iwa Kutalaba one, he definitely won. There was another one that you said that I kind of low-key forgot about. But Modestas Bukauskas, I will go ahead and give him some credit. Shout out Lithuania. I mean, they're clearly giving him a layup here, because Nikita Krylov, Chinny is one of, we don't take that lightly. But when I say this dude is chinny like this, it's over. I mean, it's over for him. Modestas is going to smash him probably.
yeah, Mateskis he's a dude who has been doing great things recently. I mean, a knockout loss to Vitor Petrino at the time when Vitor Petrino was knocking people out in this division. That to me, especially now that Vitor has moved up and is still doing that, I think it kind of ages pretty well. Modestas is like, I think that he's one of those guys that it's like he's not necessarily like electrifying, and I think that is to his detriment, is like where people have him in their minds. But this is a winnable fight for him at this point with Krylov. And am I mistaken in that? I think that it was Joe Rogan was talking about Krylov juicing, but we never actually like that. There's no like actual allegation there, right? Is that tracking to you? Because I
I've
remember like
never heard this.
that we talked about it. I remember us talking about it because I think that that's exactly what the story was. Is that for some reason Joe Rogan was talking about like the potential for him to be on the gear, like during like the commentary. He was just randomly talking about it, and I was like, you don't want to start putting that out there in the world, like these two things, because that'll start a rumor that doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to hold off on thinking that that's the case, because I do think that that is what that was. But either way, what we've seen from Nikita Krylov is two very solid losses, back to back right now. And Bukauskas, as I said, a guy who is on the upswing. So to me, this seems like really two, that what I say, line goes up, line goes down. This is a meeting of those two in the middle as to where they're going in their careers. And 30-11 it's about the time that you would be on the downswing if you're going to be on one. So Bukauskas on the other direction, even if he's not a spring chicken, I think that this is a pretty solid winnable fight for Modestas here.
Okay, so what is the verdict? Who do you got?
I'm going with Modestas Bukauskas. As I said, he's a stock raiser in my opinion. He was one that was on the list. I dug deep for the people that I was raising the stock with in the year end wrap up, and I was really glad I picked him out because like the 3 wins in the last year, all of his fights were wins.
Nice. Yeah, I do like that. I am also gonna go with Modestas.
Yeah, all right, sounds good to me. And Krylov might be at the point of fighting for his career. I mean, granted, he's a long time guy in the division, so maybe they give him a little bit more leeway. But 3 losses in a row never looks good.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, next up, talk about trajectories here. This is Ateba Gaethje versus Andre Pulayev. Gaethje is 9-1. He is 3-0 in the UFC after a win on the Contender Series. His wins are knockout wins over Jose Daniel Medina, Robert Valentin, and Tristan Vines. He is on an 8-fight knockout streak. His opponent, Andre Pulayev, is 10-3. He is 1-1 in the UFC after a win on the Contender Series. His win is a knockout over Nick Klein. His loss was a unanimous decision loss to Christian Leroy Duncan. And of course, the unanimous decision win on the Contender Series was
Yeah. So, actually, before I wanted to get into this, I wanted to let everybody know that if you didn't know, Ateba nickname is Gautier because he is the GOAT. And the other GOAT that is in the chat right now is the 10-7. So I wanted to give him a shout out before I get into anything else here. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
Ateba Gautier is obviously the guy on watch right now. I mean, when they come out with the odds, I would not be surprised if, again, we have a minus 1500 looking thing here because this guy, if Pulayev actually is able to listen, and I talk about the Christian Leroy Duncan performance a lot, and I don't know where I stand with that with Pulayev because do I want to believe that he danced 3 rounds and did not engage at all with COD? Yes, because that's what I believe I saw, but also COD doesn't perform unless he's in the apex. So I think it was also one of those moments where you just had a dude who won't perform and a dude who doesn't want to perform, and they just ended up having the worst fight of all time kind of deal. Will Pulayev want to engage with Gautier? I don't see it, guys. I truly don't see it from the way that I saw him interact with Christian Leroy Duncan. I mean, this guy's 10 times scarier. I mean, Christian Leroy Duncan might as well be that's Will Smith to this fucking guy. Like I don't know. Gautier is just he's powerful, man. He's got a lot of different. I mean, I don't know, guys. I can't really tell you anything else. He's gonna punch this dude in the face, and the dude's gonna fucking die probably. Like
And
that's how
that's
it goes.
I mean, really, I think what you just went over kind of tells the tale here. You got all of these things with Pulayev. Oh, well, was it this? Was it this? What you know about Gauthier is he goes in there and people go to sleep. That's
Yeah.
what you need to know. So it's like Pulayev, I referenced him earlier saying that, we were talking about the first fight with Ty Miller. Pulayev is the guy who said, oh, it was first fight jitters. I was just not in my element yet, whatever. Gauthier comes in here, and again, people go to sleep no matter what fight he is at this point. So it's like you want to talk about like where these people are, what they could do. I think that the fact that Pulayev is 1-1 in the UFC with Nick Klein being his win, and Christian Leroy Duncan, who is a more, not necessarily like a veteran in the sense that he's an older guy, but a dude who has way more UFC experience, that ends up being the fight that was. Gautier is coming in here with the will, determination, and power to do what he needs to do. Pulayev, I think, is just going to be out of his element. The only thing I will say is that Pulayev does have a little bit more ground game that we have seen. And that is the one thing that we have not seen. That's the X factor right now when it comes to Gautier is what is going to happen when somebody exclusively tries to take him to the ground. Robert Valentin might have been the guy that tried to do it or could have tried to do it, but he did not get to that point. Will Pulayev be able to actually level change with this guy?
Guys, I just don't see it at all. I'm taking Gautier, and if you would noticed in the chat, our boy Lachlan has broken it down for you. Ateba is paying $1.10, so if $100 bet will get you $100.10 payout. Love to see it. Love to see it. So
I mean, wouldn't that make that?
who
That
knows
would,
the math?
yeah. I'd
I
say
don't know, but
wouldn't
either way,
that be
Gautier.
Teba as the plus?
Who knows what it means? I don't do all the hinky stuff. I just get on the sports book and click the dude's name that I think is going to win, and they tell me it's probably going to pay out change amongst things. So either way, Ateba Gautier is going to win by knockout is what I'm going to go ahead and assume here. I would hate for him to not be able to get a finish because we have a dude dancing around him for 3 rounds, but I'm going to say Gautier is going to catch him. I'm going to say he's going to be able to figure it out. I've seen him working on a lot of body kicks and a lot of, side kicks. He was doing some spin kicks and the shit too, which granted, for a dude his size, very impressive. I was like, damn, okay, he does have the ability to mix some shit up if he really wants to, but why would you? If the right hand does the job, you don't need the other, art of 8 limbs, mate. One gets the job done. 7 left is fine.
Yeah, I mean that's the again I'm really like hung up on the idea that somebody is going to get this guy to the ground. That's the one thing that I'm factoring into all of this. Will it be Pulayev, this dude who's somewhat newer, who has not looked great? Maybe not. I would think no. But I mean, I see Lachlan also saying, this could be a tasty underdog here because of what we're talking about. It really is where you think that's going to happen, because if it's not this fight, it's got to be some fight. And that's really, I think, going to be the biggest factor of them all, is that when we see Gautier actually tested when it comes to ground game, if he's able to overcome that and then still get the finishes, then I am sold. But I am still just slightly skeptical because he has never been tested in that way. But I mean, I was never impressed by anything that I saw out of Pulayev, even in his victory, to be perfectly honest. So
Mhm.
I mean, that being said, I gotta go with Gauthier. I mean, like, go with what's working until it's not working anymore. If this is going to be the time where he gets, checked, then perhaps I'll be licking the wounds on that one. But I just don't see it from this specific opponent.
Not seeing it from Pulayev.
Yeah,
Pulayev. I'm not doing it.
exactly. So, all right, Gauthier on both sides for that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your featured prelim here. Of course, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. Nurmagomedov is 19-1. He is 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are unanimous decision wins over Beksat Almakan, Corey Sandhagen, and Mario Bautista. He has a knockout win over Hani Barcelos. Crazy where Hani Barcelos is now that is the case. His loss is a unanimous decision loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Figueiredo is 25-5-1, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are split decision wins over a split decision win over Montel Jackson, unanimous decision win over Chito Vera, sub over Cody Garbrandt, excuse me. His losses are unanimous decision loss to Petr Yan and a knockout loss to Corey Sandhagen with what happened in that fight.
This one is interesting because while Umar Nurmagomedov is probably one of the biggest favorites ever in this fight, I would still gladly take him because Davison Figueiredo is classic story of he was at the top of the game when I started watching, so I rightfully assumed he had to have been very, very good. But now that I see him actually compete at an older age, I'm seeing what is most likely washed Figgy, because there's just no way this is somebody who was top of the division if this is how he was competing. I mean, like you said, a split decision to Montel Jackson. Mate, he landed 37 strikes in that fight. Jesus fucking Christ, he's losing to Umar so bad. I mean, if Corey Sandhagen was having his way in the grappling for 4 rounds, dude, Davison Figueiredo was looking for a way out so hard against Corey Sandhagen. Like, dude, he looked like he was about to cry in between every round. It was honestly heartbreaking because I'm sitting here thinking, like, why would Figueiredo be plus 500 against Corey Sandhagen? Like, somebody's wrong here. This is the former champ. And then I see him get smoked for 4 rounds and then fucking die to a knee fucking pop or whatever. He's done, guys. He's washed. The Montel Jackson performance just sealed his fate. Like, they just gave him the split decision because they felt bad or something, or they knew that Montel was even worse. Like, and that's the crazy part. That fight was so fucking bad.
Yeah.
Umar is going to win this fight. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm sorry to flip on Davison because I really wanted to believe it. I did want to.
Well, and I think that what is being not factored in by enough people here is that, when you think about Davison Figueiredo, excuse me, when you think about Davison Figueiredo as the former champ, that was in the lower weight. If you look back over his time at bantamweight, it has been just a very mixed bag at best. I mean, he has not been the world ender that he was at flyweight. It's 2 different realms here. He comes into the division with a solid sub win over Cody Garbrandt. Great. It's Cody Garbrandt. I mean, I think you got to be cognizant of the levels there. And then what happens thereafter is this, kind of all over the place sort of grab bag of performances. The wins are what they are. It's he's not looking like what he used to look like. So a guy who is already on the tail end of a champion run, in the lower weight, coming up to a different weight, having mixed bag results there. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily go as far to say that he's completely washed. Could he get wins over middling bantamweights? Probably. But when you're at the level that he is at currently, fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, who is, even if he lost the title fight, that is his only in the 4-1, and his only loss is in a title fight. Come on, dude. I think that the tail of the tape on this one speaks pretty loudly. I think Umar takes this very handily.
I mean, talk about disrespect. This is Umar fighting Figueiredo at this point is downright disrespectful. I know Figueiredo's legacy wise, he's a former champion. This is somebody to get him on the resume. But dude, this is somebody who's not very good and is not going to come close to getting a title shot. Umar is 1 win away from a title shot, but him beating Figueiredo, who's not very good at bantamweight, doesn't really mean much when you look at it that way. Obviously, beating a former champion in Figueiredo means a lot. Everybody wants to glaze, Peyton Talbot for beating Henry Cejudo. Umar beats Figueiredo. I better see everybody jumping on their fucking high horses about this one and don't say, oh no, it was boring. He held him down the entire. Well, that's his game maybe. Or if he kicks him in the head or something, who knows? But Umar's going to win this fight. Figueiredo may have been one of the only people to take the fight. That might be why we're here, but I don't think that means anything. He will still lose convincingly.
Yeah, Umar is an interesting case as to where we are in like the meta of the sport because obviously coming in as a Nurmagomedov on the opposite side of Habib's time in the sport and the perception now of where the grapple heavy guys are, you know, these lay and pray guys or these dudes who are just going to hold you down and smother you or whatever. It's almost unfortunate that he's fighting in the era that he's fighting in because he's a very skilled fighter that I think is kind of victim of his own style when it comes to the fan base. But like you said, it really doesn't matter what anybody thinks of him when it comes to the wins and the losses. His only loss right now of any major note is to the former champion right now. They literally only loss on his record is to the former champion. Like this guy is like he's good. Like I don't know, you know, you can dislike. I always just think about our buddy Rwand, who is a massive hater of Umar Nurmagomedov, and I'm just like, bro, you know, like I don't know exactly where that comes from necessarily, but like love, hate, whatever, you cannot deny what he is doing in the cage. So I mean, you know, like what you're saying about Figueiredo, I'm saying, you know, you're, I think, a little bit more harsh on him than I am with all the talk that you're talking about. I'm just saying that he's kind of sunsetting a little bit. You know, he's on the, like you say, he already had his championship run. He doesn't need to be thinking about belts anymore, but, you know, and he's not able to necessarily pull off the ability to get himself into that conversation. Right now, Nurmagomedov is just is trying to bounce back after the loss in the title fight and doing exactly what he needs to. They bounce him down to Mario Bautista. He handles that exactly as he should. He gets this fight. He's going to handle this one as he should. He's going to be back in the title equation sooner than later. And this fight is just a stepping stone to that.
100%. I mean, there's a reason that Pieter and Umar haven't fought, right? So we're waiting for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. I mean, I think that it's a pretty easy call on this one. Umar Nurmagomedov, probably by decision, but, you know, we'll see if some rabbit comes out of his ass.
True. Yeah, I'm taking the decision on that one too for Umar.
True. All right. Well, then let's move on to the next one. I think that this is a very interesting fight to a lot of people, one that people are excited for. This is Arnold Allen versus John Silva. Allen is 20-3. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are unanimous decision win over Giga Chikadze, KO wins over Dan Hooker and Calvin Kattar. Good ones. Losses are unanimous decision losses to Max Holloway and Movsar Evloev. Good losses. John Silva is 16-3, 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are KO wins over Charles Jourdain and Melsik Bagdasaryan, TKO doctor stoppage over Drew Dober, and a sub win over Bryce Mitchell. His loss is a knockout loss to Diego Lopez.
This one is interesting because I think a lot of people, and downright everybody, rightfully is writing off Arnold Allen. You know, time off, you know, a fighting style, a lot of different things play into that. But I think, and I think they're not wrong to do that. I think John Silva offers a lot more in the cage, and he's a lot more versatile. He's got the X factor, of course. You don't really know what he's going to do. Arnold Allen, I mean, he's kind of just a copy paste kind of fighter. You know, when it comes to what he does and what he can do, you know, we've seen it before, we'll see it again, kind of deal. He does have an English chin. You know, he has never, I don't think he's ever been knocked out, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, 3 losses, God, yeah. That's pretty damn good to think about. But go ahead.
No, I was just, you know, and I was gonna say as I had just said, the losses are good. You know, I mean, Max Holloway and Movsar. I mean, these are fine. But to go to decision with both those guys, I mean, that's, you know, it kind of what should happen, I suppose. But at the same time, these are not bad people to be losing against. What I want to say about Allen, though, it's a note that I crib a little bit off of you. I think that the thing about Arnold Allen is that he doesn't exude killer. You know, he doesn't have the presence of like the killer instinct, and that I think is why a lot of people are riding with John Silva. You know what you're getting out of him, and even if it's all like a bit more played up, a little bit character based, he does go in there and back up a lot of his a lot of his persona.
No, he is really, really good. And I think that, you know, I think that's why I would pick him to win these encounters. But I think what Arnold Allen has, and I think this is what he shares with Diego Lopez, and I think this is what evidently could become key. And I know a lot of people won't want to believe it, but when John Silva fights, what he uses to his advantage are called antics. He does a lot of in-game antics where he will stop the fight to get a high five, to get a hug, to do any sort of thing that is getting his opponent out of their rhythm. What I think Diego Lopez did perfectly was not buy into any of that. And I think that is what Arnold Allen potentially could share with Diego Lopez. And I think that is obviously one of the only things that I think he'll share with him, other than some hard nose, put my face into some shots and return fire type of deal. But Arnold Allen should not, by my accord, be falling into any of these antics by John Silva. And I think that is what's going to be a factor in this fight, because it always is for John Silva. But Arnold Allen being able to deflect those, I think, is going to be very, very key. If he can stay locked in, there is a possibility that he can win. But if he gets roped into having fun, just like everybody else, it's over for him.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because yes, we talk about the quote unquote fraud checks, right? I would not class losing to Diego Lopez to be a fraud check. However, if there is anything that was fraud checked, it was exactly what you were just talking about. Knowing that this is what John Silva is going to do, he's a gamesmanship fighter in a lot of ways, and a lot of people have fallen into that trap. Really, I mean, you think about it in these terms. He got so into Bryce Mitchell's head that Bryce Mitchell like abandoned game plans in there once he was encountering those antics. Like it's like he has a way of needling fighters and kind of luring them into false senses of security. And Arnold Allen has the opportunity now, after that was exposed by Diego Lopez, to not fall into that same trap. That should be the biggest takeaway for anybody who is potentially fighting John Silva going forward, is look at the Diego Lopez fight, look at how Diego approached that fight, and at least copy that element of what he was taking to that fight. Do not play into all of the handshakes and the high fives and the smiles. Like, you need to leave that well outside of the cage, lock in, focus. Arnold Allen does have that opportunity. I will give you that.
Yeah, and obviously I see the chat and I see Twitter and social media making this whole big thing about we have two different spectrums of autism here. I don't care what it is, guys. I know we have one thing in common between these two fighters is they like violence. And I would love to see a fight where both of them endure violence for my viewing pleasure. So this would be really fun.
I mean, from what I understand, weaponized autism could be the best base for MMA. So, fair. So, okay, then that being said, what are you thinking?
I'm going to take John Silva.
All right. I also am going to take John Silva. I think that it's tough because, I mean, 20-3, that is a great record. Arnold Allen does have really nice wins. I think that the dynamics of Jean Silva, I think he's very good. I always talk about quick starters in this sport. He is one of them. I think he's also very good at finding the shots and finding the openings in general. And I think that that's one advantage that he's going to have over Allen, is that Allen might not be able to get himself into rhythm as quickly as Silva just goes for the gusto. So that's where my thought process is anyway.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards Silva.
All right. So Silva it is. Again, we're in lockstep for a couple of these. This one, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see what we got to say about this. This is, of course, Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Silva is 19-5-1. She is 5-0 in her last 5. Her wins are unanimous decision wins over Alexa Grasso, Jessica Andrade, Viviane Araújo, and Andrea Lee. And she has a knockout win over Victoria Leonardo. So yeah, she is on a 13 fight win streak currently. She has not lost a fight since 2017. That is a very large amount of time, over 10 years almost 10 years.
You know who it was she lost in 2017 too?
Who was it?
Marina Rodriguez.
There you go. So
in Thunder Fight 14.
Yeah, and at that stage of her career with Marina Rodriguez going on to be in the UFC, maybe it ages somewhat decently, right? But she's on a 13-fight win streak currently, so obviously nothing to sneeze at. Rose Namajunas is 15-7. She is 3-2 in her last 5. Unanimous decision wins over Miranda Maverick, Tracy Cortez, and Amanda Hebos. Unanimous decision losses to Erin Blanchfield and Manon Fiorot, both very decent losses currently as well.
She very well may be on a very good win streak. And I think all the people that she fought, have a very set style that the Taekwondo that Natalia Silva is able to utilize is very effective to those fighters. But if you'll look a little further down in her history, she's definitely lost. Marina Rodriguez beat her unanimous decision. So whatever happened that night, it could happen again. I would say. I mean, Marina
It
Rodriguez is
was it was
not
10
even,
years ago.
but the point still stands. I mean, she may be locked in now, sure, but like, she's been submitted twice. I know these are, it's not like but she's experienced these losses before. Whether you want to take that as a good thing or a bad thing, I mean, she's been knocked out as well, TKO or whatever you want to say. I mean, she's experienced losses before. It's not like she's just never done this before. But the thing is that I'm saying is, Rose is one of the most versatile women that we've ever seen. I'm not the biggest fan of Rose, but I will admit that she's been around. She has always had good game, not good game plans, but she's always had a game plan in mind. Whether she executes, that's different. But Rose is definitely a special fighter when it comes to the UFC. She is somebody, again, when you fight her, that the name on the resume is good, either way you look at it. But I think Natalia Silva, having such a unique style, I think Rose potentially could be one of those people that has the game plan to beat somebody like this. And I mean, the answers are already there. She's lost 5 times before. It's not like she's some undefeated prospect who nobody has the answers for. I mean, she lost 5 times before she went on a 12-fight win streak. So Rose can figure something out. And if she does figure something out, she has all the tools and all the skills to execute a win over her, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Rose is someone who I've said many times you have to be cognizant of the fact that you never really know which Rose is showing up, but what we've seen recently is what seems to be a pretty dialed in Rose. I mean, it's kind of surprising considering that she left Trevor Whitman and a very established school to kind of do her own thing with Pat Barry, and that I think a lot of people were very skeptical of that. Of course, there was a number of reasons to be skeptical of that with some of the performances that had happened throughout her career, really. I mean, but then also some early on in that transition. But what we've been seeing lately, it seems to be a pretty even keeled Rose. I mean, she's coming in and putting on decent performances. Like I said, the losses are fine losses. I mean, those are two women, and Manon, a title challenger, and Blanchfield possibly going to be one as well. These are fine losses, and Rose obviously is one of the perennial women's like names. I mean, she's one of the highest level women fighters that we still have on the roster, I would say, even if she's inconsistent, which keeps her sort of lower in the conversation than others might be. So I'm agreeing with the thought process on all of that. I think that the why I'm going to also kind of side with Rose on this is that Natalia Silva, she has a very what I would consider like an in the box kind of style. Like it's not like all of the wins that she's had up until this point in the UFC. It's like she doesn't really have to dig deep for them, and I think that Rose is going to challenge her in a way that she hasn't been challenged before.
So to that point, I think is actually, so when I asked, so Natalia Silva having 5 losses before she went on a 12-fight win streak to where we are now, in your mind, just quick before I get into my next point, does that matter to you? Would you say that matters now that you've seen her go on a 12-fight win streak?
The losses you're talking about?
Yes, the 5 losses before previously, 10 plus years ago.
Nah, not really. Not really, because I want to believe that there's evolution to the game and that maybe she just figured out whatever the problems were that gave her those losses.
And so I used that as a talking point of why I would pick Rose in the situation. But I remember just a few weeks ago when I had brought up the point is, if Michael Morales had actually lost to those people and it was pro bouts, does that matter? He has knocked out 17 different people afterwards, 8 of them being UFC, whatever you want to say the case is. The number 2 ranked guy in the world he knocked out. Does
Oh
it
yeah,
matter that he lost to an Uber driver in 2012?
right. Oh sure. Well, and again, at the time, I also said no. So yeah, I mean,
Exactly. So
yeah,
I
right.
think, I think I was just sitting here thinking on the point that I was trying to make, and maybe I was being a little harsh. Natalia Silva, 12-fight win streak, again, UFC competition mixed into that. But
But that, I'd say it goes back to what I was like. Why I set it up that way, though, is because I'm saying like even with the win streak being what it is, I've just never felt like I've seen her had to have to dig deep. Even
mm,
in the Alexa Grasso fight, like that was the one that I was like, oh, okay, finally we're gonna get to see her. Like they put that fight on main card of the pay per view as the big. This is what you got to watch out for. Natalia Silva is up next, and what did we see? A very down the line, very standard decision win.
yeah.
So I mean, I'm just not seeing like her being pushed to any great limits in her fights. Rose is somebody who will dig deeper if she has to. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, but I'm gonna hope that Rose actually pulls through, because Natalia Silva, I mean, She has a style that wins decisions, but that is a point striking affair, and it is not necessarily my favorite fighting style. But amongst women flyweights, I guess beggars can't be choosers when it comes to women who win fights. I guess there's a way to say it.
Sure. So, final answer is Rose.
Rose.
All right. I also am taking Rose on this one. Let's see if we can divulge on any of these here. Maybe this will be the one. This one next up is Waldo Cortez Acosta, versus Derek Lewis. Cortez Acosta is 16-2. He is 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are a unanimous decision win over Sergey Spivak, knockout wins over Ryan Spann, Ante Dalia, and Shamil Gaziev. His loss is a unanimous decision loss to Sergey Pavlovich. Lewis is 29-12. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are KO wins over Marcos Rogerio de Lima, Rodrigo Nascimento, and Taliesin Teixeira. His losses are a unanimous decision loss to Jailton Almeida and a submission loss to Sergey Spivak.
This one is interesting because while I have always argued that Derek Lewis is the greatest heavyweight because he does what heavyweights have always been told to have done, is punch people once and they go to sleep. Derek Lewis has done that the best out of all the heavyweights that have ever existed in the UFC. While that stands, and he is 40 years old, and that does not matter to me, I think Waldo Cortez Acosta probably has, I've seen him wrestle Rebellis to Spain. I've seen him wrestle other people, get a hold of him and grapple him. He doesn't always have to strike. He strikes when he's confident, when his confidence is up. And then, we saw with Sergey Pavlovich that he, when his confidence is low, he doesn't look very good. I think he will do what he did with Rebellis to Spain and kind of and might have to hold on to Derek Lewis for a little bit. I don't know if he's going to try to knock him out in the first round, but I think he's going to at least take away the first 30-second punch from Derek Lewis. I mean, that's the best game plan, of course. Get out the first 30 seconds and then we'll think about what's going on. Everybody falls into the trap of let me try to do something with Derek Lewis right out the gate, and then they get flatlined. They get flying kneed out of all things, so you just got to take what you can with Waldo. Know that he is a smart fighter. He knows when to play to the crowd and knows when not to. Rebellis to Spain, he could have went out there and got knocked out by that dude, and everybody would have forgotten him. But nobody forgets that he laid on him for 15 minutes because the UFC wanted to get him knocked out, and he said, no fucking chance, buddy.
True. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what you're saying tracks really heavily in this fight because, A, Waldo did do that, and B, if you recall the Derek Lewis versus Jailton Almeida fight, that was a spectacle to behold of seeing Derek Lewis being held down in every conceivable position that a man can be held down on the mat by another man. So that all being said, I think that what you're saying really does have some legs here because Lewis is a guy who if you take away the thing that he is good at, there's not, we were talking about Helena Cravar earlier on this card saying, if you have one skill set, how far can it take you? I mean, it's done pretty well for Derek Lewis, but this is heavyweight MMA right now that we're talking about here. This is a different beast. And now that people are actually developing some ground game in the heavyweight division, I think that people like Derek Lewis, it's hard to keep up with that. And you've seen it now in action several times. Knowing that Waldo has that ability, it's what we're talking about with Tepe Gauthier as well. I'm like, Pulayev might not be the guy to do it, but if somebody can, Waldo might be able to be the guy that can against Derek Lewis here, and he's willing to. That's the other thing. It's like some people who have that skill set. I talk often about how much I hate when the commentary says, "Oh, he's got this wrestling in his back pocket. He just never has to use it." It's like, if you don't use it, then it ain't there to me. Waldo actually has it and does use it. So it's hard for me to I believe in Derek Lewis. I think that, everybody loves Derek Lewis. You got to put that part out of the equation, but I believe in his power, of course, regardless of his age, all of that stuff. He will always go out there and take a person's head off if he has the ability to get the shot. If he's on his back, he does not have that ability. This is a tough one for me to call here.
This guy has lost to Tai Tuivasa. We should not be surprised if he loses to Waldo Cortez Acosta. That's all that I'm saying. He has plenty of time left in the sport if he loses a decision to Waldo. Even if he gets knocked out, we've seen Derek Lewis get knocked out before, and he looks like he just kind of falls over and gives up, kind of deal. So I mean, he can keep going after this. A loss to Waldo isn't that bad because Derek Lewis is, listen, he's a star in the sport. He knows how to follow a storyline. He knows that Waldo is on his way to a title. Derek Lewis is just a stepping stone in that portion. He just has to go in here and get a fight under his
All
belt.
right. Well, I don't know if I would go necessarily that far because what I will say about Derek Lewis is that he will swing up until the last conceivable second because I will never forget the come from behind victory that he had. Was that against
Volkov.
Well, Volkov? Yes, exactly. There you go. I thought it was like, is it Praknio or Volkov? Or Tybura is who I thought the other one was. Anyway, yes, Derek Lewis can, he will try until the very last second of the fight. So if he has any opening, then that could be the possibility there. I want to believe that the fight has to start on the feet, unless Waldo's just going to be going in there blitzing him from the second that this thing starts and really not letting him up. Then, maybe there's an opening for Derek Lewis. I'm gonna ride with Derek Lewis on this. I know that all of what we said may lead one to the contrary, and I think that it's a very fine thought process. But I gotta believe that Derek, because you were saying like Derek Lewis did have that time where he was he was kind of down and out for a little bit. He was on a pretty decent little loss streak there. There was a time where they were asking Dana, "Are you going to cut him?" And he's like, we'll figure out what we want to do and all that kind of stuff. And now he's gotten himself back into form. It sounds like he's taking his training a little bit more seriously than he has in the
I
past.
mean,
Maybe
look at
that
that
is,
picture right there.
I know, the abs, bro. I mean, they're still behind a protective layer, but they are there more so than they ever have been. But I want to say that at least in the last couple of years, that every time that Derek Lewis is fighting, he's always been in the best shape that he's ever been in. So it's just like they're all comparing him to the old version of him, and maybe that's just now the current version of him. Either way, if that factors in at all, I'm going to go with Derek Lewis on this. I think it's a long shot, but I'm taking him.
I'm going to go ahead and take Waldo Cortez Acosta on this one, guys. But Derek Lewis at plus money, you can never go wrong for a knockout.
Yeah. I mean, Derek Lewis, do a straight bet on Derek Lewis if you want to go for him, and I think that the potential might be there. I'm with it. I think that tracks. All right, and of course, coming into what is the now co-main event of this card, this is Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. O'Malley is 18-3, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are a split decision win over Piotr Jan, unanimous decision win over Chito Vera, and a knockout win over Aljamain Sterling. His losses are unanimous decision loss and a sub loss, both to Merab Dvalishvili. Song Yadong is 22-8-1. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are unanimous decision wins over Chris Gutierrez and Henry Cejudo, a knockout win over Ricky Simone. His losses are unanimous decision loss to Piotr Jan and a TKO doctor stoppage loss to Corey Sandhagen.
This one is interesting because I feel like people are seemingly forgetting who Sean O'Malley is. And why it's interesting is because if you watch Song Yadong and you watch him fight, he stands there with his head straight on the line. Like this dude just has his face just right there. I mean, yeah, he's got his guard high, but this is nothing new to Sean O'Malley, who will dance around the entirety of the cage and pop this dude's head off. And Sean O'Malley, when I say dance around the cage, he's actually not one of these evasive fighters when I say dancing. He is one of these volume strikers that from the outside, he will annihilate you. It's more like, some people are snipers, some people are machine guns. Like Sean O'Malley genuinely is a machine gun from the outside. Like it's pretty impressive, the volume that he's able to have and the power at bantamweight. We've seen him knock people out. We've seen him put people down. I don't think Song Yadong is going to be any different. I mean, if it's indeed going to be 3 rounds and not move to a 5-round co-main event, which is most likely going to happen, the 3-rounder is a go. I think Sean O'Malley still probably catches Song Yadong late in this fight.
I think that the thought process does track. There's no reason to think that Sean O'Malley can't go back to being the power striker, especially in a fight like this. The one thing that I'll say and why I'm slightly leaning towards Song Yadong on this is because of the speed. Like what you're saying about Sean O'Malley, being a dude who will bomb off the outside. I think that gives Song Yadong a little bit more of an opportunity to be dynamic with his movements. And that is one thing that if you watch the Henry Cejudo fight back, that's how he was getting so much success against Henry. Henry, who himself, even in his later fights, was still decently fast. I mean, not necessarily as quick as he once was, but like, still good movement overall. I think Song Yadong was kind of outmaneuvering him. He was just outworking him on the feet as far as his movement went, stick and move, get himself to where he needed to be positionally. If he can do that against Sean, that'll be an impressive feat. It's hard to say that he's actually going to be able to do that. I'm kind of torn on this one as well because I do think that Song has a guy who, like, the losses that he has, uh, it's like, yeah, the Corey Sandhagen one, whatever, that is what it is. But a unanimous decision loss to Petr Yan, who's the current champion, like that is a pretty good loss to take, I would say. I mean, overall, like I think that Song Yadong brings a lot to this fight. And really, I don't know if, is O'Malley the same guy that he was before his losses, I guess is also the question.
He was the same person after he got TKO'd by Cheeto Vera. He was actually even better after that. So, I mean,
That's
talking about a
different though.
comeback, though, I mean, he's able to come back. I mean, getting finished for the first time in your career, I mean, and especially it being a little fluky, I mean, that's a little hard to come back from. And it's not like he just came back. He went and then took the belt after that, knocked out Aljamain Sterling. I know it was a little fluky, but I mean, if anybody's questioning if Sean O'Malley can make a comeback, I don't think you know the context. I mean, I didn't necessarily know that Cheeto finished him before I started watching, but I know that in hindsight, like that's a pretty listen, getting finished and having your hype derailed. I mean, that's a pretty big thing, but then to eventually get the title after that. I mean, yes, he is rocket shipped and yes, he has the hype, but Sean O'Malley is very, very good, guys, and he can knock people out, and that's why he gets skyrocketed
Well,
because he gets highlights.
yeah, I mean, you say that he got finished by Cheeto, and I mean, yeah, Cheeto did go in there and get the shots after the foot turning or whatever. But I mean, this is another injury situation that led to that, and that's what he hung his hat on for so long. So I think it's a little bit different between what that situation was in that fight versus getting sunned by Marab twice in a
I
row.
mean,
But
he was injured in the first fight, is what they said. So
but then he didn't come back, and I mean,
but up until that fight, it was like, oh, I was hurt. I'm gonna have a good comeback. But then he didn't, of course. But it's Marab who's the fucking goat. I would still believe that he could have a comeback against somebody who has 8 losses against regional people, almost.
fair, yeah. I mean, I want to believe that Song has upped his game over the time. I think that he's been doing pretty good, and again, a loss to the current champ sits pretty okay in my book.
They're both
Uh,
at that state, I guess.
That's what yeah, it's and look, I only posed the question. I'm not even saying that I think that O'Malley is a different fighter or anything
Hmm.
like that. I think that this is the exact right type of fight for him to get back into the swing of things. This is, Song Yadong's not going to necessarily try to keep, to take him to the ground. He's not going to do any of the stuff that Marab did, really. I mean, he's going to try to box. He's going to try to be one step ahead of him. He's going to try to keep, his movement as the primary focus and get the shots where he can. That's really, I think, the bigger question to me is O'Malley going to be able to hunt him down? And if he was able to do that pretty decently with Petr Yan, even if people think that he actually lost that fight, judges thought otherwise. So I mean, like obviously he was able to make it close enough that it was debatable. I think that O'Malley does have a good shot in this one, but again, I am on the fence about it. So
So
uh,
what's it gonna be, Thinker? I'm definitely gonna
uh,
take Sugar Sean O'Malley by late finish.
yeah. I gotta go with Sean O'Malley too, man. I hate to, I really want to go with Song Yadong on this one, and like I'm gonna really kick myself, if he does end up winning this, if I don't go with him. But I think that I think that it is going to be Sean. Again, I think that this is a tailor-made fight to get Sean back into some level of prominence. This is not, it's not like if he was fighting someone like an Umar, not necessarily Umar, but someone like Umar, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's a little bit more at play in something like that. But with a pure striker and a guy who really the speed, in my estimation, is the only real advantage that he has, I think I got to go with Sean.
Hell yeah, I do like Sean here. I've always been a fan of Sean. Unfortunately, he did have to go against the goat Marab, but for the time being, I did have to think. Up until Toby made me switch to the Marab Mafia, I was full and well going with Sean O'Malley. I'm glad that I know better now, but Sean O'Malley should have a decent comeback. Like you were saying, this is to keep him in the title picture. This is a matchup that they know good and well that he should be able to win. So
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and I think I need to highlight this comment very
Yes, you do.
quickly. Shout out to Savage always. He says, if you blend pink sauce and human shit together and bake it in an easy bake oven, you get Sean O'Malley. Um, that is a very funny statement, but also I highlight that to say that I've been preying on the Sean O'Malley downfall for a while. I'm very open about that. I have never really been sold on the persona and any of that kind of stuff. I think he is a charisma vacuum, as I describe him, as far as on the microphone goes. All that goes out the window when it comes to the predictions. So there you go. That's the summation.
True. Yep, but I'm taking Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, like I said, I think I have to as well. But I will also say, and this comes with the caveat that if Sean loses this fight, that will fundamentally change my. I think everybody's opinion of him, definitely mine. I mean,
True.
if this is the fight that he ends up losing after then, losing to Merab by sub and getting held down by Merab in the first fight so much, and can't do it on the feet anymore, we have bigger questions at hand here.
True, 100%. Might as well retire at that point.
Well, I mean, come on, that's a little bit much, but you know what I'm saying. I think that it fundamentally changes the viewpoint. I would say.
True.
All right. Well, that all being said, let's take this thing and round it out with the main event of the evening. This is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim lightweight title. Gaethje is 26-5. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are a majority decision and a unanimous decision win over Rafael Fiziev, a knockout win over Dustin Poirier. His losses are a sub loss to Charles Oliveira and a knockout loss to Max Holloway. Paddy Pimblett is 23-3, 5-0 in his last 5. His wins are unanimous decision wins over Jared Gordon and Tony Ferguson, sub wins over Jordan Levitt and King Green, and a knockout win over Michael Chandler.
This one is interesting because at the beginning of at the beginning of when you find out this fight is set, you think about, okay, so Paddy, he's a submission guy. He likes to submit. Justin Gaethje has been submitted by the submissions that Paddy Pimblett has won fights in the UFC before. That is a very key note. Triangle choke by Khabib. Paddy did that to Bobby Green. Whatever the other fucking shit was, RNC by Charles Oliveira or some shit like that. Paddy's got something like that. Either way, point is, Paddy Pimblett can do what Justin Gaethje has failed to defend before. Now, a lot of people, and even myself, up until this point, like right now, I was about to use the argument that Paddy Pimblett was gassing against Tony fucking Ferguson in 3 rounds, and he did barely even made it to the bell and almost lost that 3rd round, whatever you want to say. Justin Gaethje has the ability, if he does get it to deep water, he can certainly do that. But Paddy Pimblett on the other hand has definitely not been the type of fighter in recent history that is, going for the long game. If you look at what he did to Bobby Green and Michael Chandler, it was in and out. He's ready to win. There's no 3-round decision. There's no judge's scorecard. It's first round. I mangle you. We'll worry about it later. So if Paddy Pimblett does go for this run and gun type of style against Justin and it doesn't work, he gasses out, Justin finishes him late. I would not be that surprised. But Paddy Pimblett might be able to just run and gun and finish Justin Gaethje in the first round, just like he did Michael Chandler and just like he did Bobby Green. I know that's crazy to say, but I don't know. Paddy might have done the evolution that we needed. The striking is probably not where it needs to be still, but if he's able to get his hands on him, anything might be possible at that point. But Justin does have like 8 performance bonuses when it comes to fucking fight of the night. This dude's a fucking animal. It's a hard one. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, so this is, I think, the big point here that I have at least.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are 2 distinct eras of Justin Gaethje. There is the era that he had early on in his career in the UFC, where he was sort of a killer be kill guy. It was just, you talk about run and gun. I think he was Mr. Run and Gun for a long time there. And then somewhere about halfway through, because if you go back early on, I mean, I've been following Justin Gaethje for a lot of his career in the UFC, if not all of it, pretty much all of it. And early on, he was himself saying, I can't keep this up. Like, I know myself in the fight style that I have, like, this is not sustainable. So I got to get in and get my wins now, get my money now, and make a graceful exit from this sport, because this is not something that can last forever. I think that thought process changed about maybe like 3, 4, 5 years ago, something like that. Maybe like more like 4 years ago, something like that, somewhere around there, where he kind of got himself into a coachable position and started actually like wanting to be a little bit more methodical, wanted to be a little bit more fight IQ as opposed to just balls to the wall. I think that a couple of those knockout losses started to maybe play into that. And now what you have is a different Justin Gaethje, and I feel like a lot of people are still judging off of the old Justin Gaethje, and that plays a big part to me, especially based on what you were talking about with Paddy Pimblett. Like these are evolutions that we're seeing with Paddy Pimblett that is like a leveling up, and I think Justin Gaethje not. I don't want to say he regressed because I do think that it's a smarter thing to go in there with a game plan and not just go in there with just throwing wild shots and hoping to land them. But at the same time, I think it allows for his opponents to do a little bit more of what they want to do if he's not blitzing them in the way that he once was.
Hmm. No, I absolutely agree. It's going to be interesting to see which version of Justin Gaethje comes up because obviously we did have circulating photos about his ingrown hairs and his antibiotics that he's probably taking for those. I don't know if you guys normally do that, but I'm sure he's on them and he may be super drained coming into this fight. Who really knows what that's going to do for his performance? But I would go ahead and say, just based off that information alone, you should probably be taking the 31-year-old Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah, and I mean, Savage is kind of saying it in the chat, and I also will say, like, Justin Gaethje, like, I don't think anybody is super happy with how he ended up in this position. I mean, this is not like when you were talking about a title. And granted, this is an interim title, and we know why that is. But either way, this is still for a title of some sort. It's really not the greatest thing to be like, I've done a lot for this promotion. I deserve this. No, you earn it by the performances and by being undeniable. That's what gets you the shot. So yeah, we all appreciate Justin Gaethje and the performances he's given us, the excitement that he has given us in the cage. He gets the respect of the fan base for that. In this circumstance here, when it's I'm going to fight for the belt or I'm retiring, and then if I lose the fight, I am retiring. I don't think any of those play in to the perception very well, at least from how I'm looking at the fight. And then also what you said, I think that the ingrown hair, quote unquote, or staph infection, most likely, whatever, that's certainly something to factor in. We saw what happened with BSD with that. These are all of the things. Like there are too many what if factors with Justin Gaethje in this thing that are not good ones, and Paddy Pimblett doesn't bring any of that to the equation.
Well, I actually would like to bring you a what if scenario because I genuinely do believe that I've been watching some of the interviews that Paddy Pimblett has had circulating post his Dan Hooker encounter, and I would like to believe that it looks like it's weighing on him a little bit. I don't know. Maybe Dan Hooker pushed the right buttons. Maybe Paddy is all in a depressive mood as of right now because he got the brunt end of the jokes.
You think that Dan Hooker got into his head so badly that he is being mentally affected by a guy who he is not fighting currently?
I think yes. I think we could see Paddy Pimblett not show up 100% on his A game, and I mean, listen, is that crazier than him pulling the card of like as of what he did? He literally started crying about the shit after he made the initial joke. Would it be crazy for him to be all soy and upset, like and come into the fight still mad about Dan Hooker? Like I totally could see that happening, and then. I don't know. I feel like he might just be off his game, man.
Well, these are the questions, I suppose. I mean, crazier things have happened in this sport. All right. Well, with all of those, with that as the landscape between these two, then what's your final call here?
I'm going to take Paddy Pimblett, and I'm going to take him by finish.
Really? All right. I am also going to take Paddy Pimblett. I think that it is going to be a decision. I want to say. I know that that's crazy to say, but I think that because of the both of these guys being tough guys, I think that maybe it ends up being a little bit more grindy than we would think, and it's going to be a matter of if Gaethje can just defend the submissions, because I do think that's going to be eventually where it ends up going later in the fight.
I would say decision is where I least likely lie. I would say if it does somehow get past round 3, Patty's gonna be disgustingly tired because he's always fucking fat. and Justin is going to be turning up, and he's going to have those hands popping, and his hooks are really fucking good when he gets really tight in the clinch. His dirty boxing is really good. I could see an uppercut just sitting Patty down if it's late in the fight, you know.
Yeah, no, you are correct about that. The one thing about Justin Gaethje is he does keep power throughout all 5 rounds. So I will give you that. Yeah, maybe decision might be a little bit extreme, but either
It's
way,
five, man. That's,
I
you
know
got
it's
to
a long
remember
time. It's a
how
long fight.
we we underestimate just how long those extra 2 rounds go. Because when you see 3 rounds, sometimes you're like, man, I wish we could have saw five. We could have saw, but like generally speaking, after three, these guys are really fucking tired. We see it in championship fights all the time. Like getting off the stool for rounds 4 and 5 is hard, man. It,
Yeah,
it genuinely takes championship level stuff.
sure, and it's going to be interesting with these two with the specific styles that they have to see if they pace themselves for a 5 rounder. You know, I mean, Gaethje probably doesn't need that as much. He has much more 5 round experience, but Patty, we're going to have to see. I mean, you know, what's the
I can't
conditioning like?
I can't imagine Justin's gonna want to pace himself. He's gotta just, if he gets a hold of me, then it's over. It's not over, but like once we get grappling, the game plan that I had is out the window kind of deal. I need to keep it on the feet, for as quickly as I can and get it in and out, because if he grabs a hold of me, it's a game plan that I have he's probably, obviously he's assuming there's going to be wrestling and grappling, but once it's off the feet or once we're not in the striking range and it's a lot closer, then he doesn't have the ability to end the fight. So if he gets in there and he's ready to end it quick, I think being deadly in the first round. I mean, I know people don't want to maybe believe it. I mean, obviously, with these guys, I guess it should be expected. This might be a really quick affair. I don't know. Like Patty's
It could
been
be.
in and out lately.
No, it is true. Yeah, that is a good point. That's why I think that my thought process is that if it ends up being where Patty doesn't want to hang on the feet with him and just starts trying to go for the takedowns, if Justin does have like holes in the wrestling. I mean, like that we have seen that, which is so I always keep Justin is actually one of the primary people that I always think about when I think of that what I just talked about, where I was like, he's got the wrestling in the back pocket. Okay, whatever that means.
He trains with Usman. That's what it means.
He trains with Usman. He was a D1 wrestler or whatever, high school wrestling kind of deal, collegiate wrestler, whatever. It doesn't factor into the current landscape of him. So my point is that I think if Justin can get himself into scramble mode and just kind of like, maneuver around that, and Patty doesn't want to play with the power in the hands, then it ends up being a little bit of a different circumstance that goes later. But you are right. Like thinking it through, Justin does keep power throughout the entirety of the fight, so he might be able to catch him late. I don't know if I'm necessarily 100% sold on the gassing thing though, because Patty, I know that he's a guy who balloons up during the off season, but he does condition pretty well, and he is ridiculously large when he is in there. As far as the actual cardio of that goes, that I'm saying two different things at the same time, perhaps, but I just know that he is able to condition himself well enough to make weight all the time that he does it.
Yeah, I'm just very excited for this main event. I think it'll be a very, very good one. I'm still going to go ahead and say Paddy Pimblett is going to finish this fight, though.
I like it. I don't know. I mean, like I say, maybe I'll backtrack a little bit on the decision part of it, but I too I'm siding with Patty on this one, and it's gonna suck because I don't think that I hate this play that like what I was talking about earlier. I hate this play from Justin because I don't think it's a great way to go out if it does end this way. Like this is not the type of situation and dynamics that you want out of a fighter that is beloved by the fan base like this. But again, boots on the ground. I think Patty's just been doing the nicer work lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Well, we will find out, of course, all of these fights' conclusions on our individual watch alongs for UFC 324 on this Saturday. That is youtube.com/@Yama Show. For me, Chase, where can they find you?
youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And of course, on Friday, we will be going over the one cards. We'll watch one at 6:30 in the morning this Friday, Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, at night, we will be doing either not PFL, the other one FC card, or LFA is potential as well. I have to figure out what time that actually starts, but we may just have both running. I got multiple options. So either way, make sure you guys check them out.
Exactly. And same, I don't know exactly which one I'm going to be doing yet, but I'm leaning towards the Zuffa boxing just to see the first one of it. I know, do trust me, I don't want to, but like I'm thinking that I have to just to see what that product looks like so I'm able to actually talk about it going forward. But we'll see about all that. Either way though, Yes. What?
We got to get to CTE's questions.
That's what I
Okay,
was going to
okay.
say. Of course, the show is not over this week, folks. And we don't know if we're going to necessarily do this all the time, but we have on the MMA winter episodes, of course, we took some questions from the audience. And last week we missed a couple of them. So shout out to the homie CTE who sent a couple of questions into us. So we're going to end this episode with a little bit of Q&A section, just like we did last week. So let's start it off with the first question. There are three of them. The first question is, which fighter got you into MMA?
Ooh, I think the person that got me into MMA, probably Alexander Volkanovski. I think that dude genuinely, he represented what I wanted to look at as a mixed martial artist. He was so professional. He could do all of the skills. He was, again, undersized. All of his fights, there was always some underdog aspect. Now, he was always the favorite and he was, the champion, but there was always reason to believe, like, why would the short guy who plays rugby, why would he just come in here and mop all of these mixed martial artists, these pro athletes? And he just did just that, and he was a very dominant champion for what it was. He is, the champion again. And he's just always ready to put on a fucking war, man. I love Volk. Like, that dude's I always think of him, Volk on full camp is like Batman to me. Like, he could just do anything. He could beat anybody if you give him a full camp. Like, and I love to think that about him.
Absolutely. I mean, Volk is a great answer. And, I like that a lot. Okay, my answer to this question is a little bit more involved. All right. So
Okay.
I'm gonna qualify this because the answer to the question, there is an answer to this, but the answer is one that I think is going to be a little bit of a side eye from pretty much everybody who hears it, but hear me out. All right. What I will say to this is Chase already given it to me. What I will say to this is that I like fighting. I am not specific to any one person. You see how I talk about the fighters often. Like, I've never really I've said it. We talked about this. I think on the last episode, we were saying, like, I don't necessarily have like any grand desire to hang out with the fighters. Like, I'm not. I don't like have like a starstruck element with it. I like fighting. So really, if there are two people fighting, that is what I want to see. If it's a good fight, I really don't care who is in the fight. There are some people that I think do that better than others, and that is what draws me to those individuals when it comes to this sport. So that being said, the fighter that I have to answer this question with is Chris Weidman. And I know that, like I said, I had to caveat this, but I'll tell you why. The first event that I ever watched full through was Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva, and I knew Anderson Silva's aura, all of his accolades, his status in the sport, and Chris Weidman pulled off an upset that was very unexpected and something that I was like, man, I thought I was coming. I thought I was going to be seeing one thing. I thought I was going to be seeing a masterclass from Anderson Silva, and this rando Chris Weidman comes in and grabs a belt off of this legendary fighter. And for me, that was one of those things where I was like, man, like, I always thought that, like, the with the fighting, because I like having a little bit of a base with like boxing as the background a little bit earlier on, because like I just wasn't exposed to MMA as early on as some people. Like, I was like, in boxing, you got guys who like, taking a loss is like could be the end of their career in the big picture or whatever. Like, you have like established names that are just the best. But in seeing this guy who was considered the best take the loss from a person that I had never even heard of at the time, I was like, maybe there's a little bit more to MMA than I was thinking about. And that, I think, is what kind of got me into the sport a little bit more than what I had been into it before. So that is the answer to the question, love it or hate it.
Chris Weidman, I love that answer. Absolutely. The All American.
Indeed, exactly. The All American, and I am a real American. So
and he is still my boy.
Goddamn right. Even after the eye pokes and and all that comes with Chris Weidman, he is still my boy indeed. So there you go. So that's question number one. Question number two is, which fighter do you think will influence MMA most moving forward? That's an interesting question. Influence MMA as a whole, I guess.
Ooh, this is a really good one. Influence because this could be for better or for worse, you know. Islam Makhachev, I would say, is going to be one of these people that is influential to the game of mixed martial arts. I mean, he's going to be somebody that a lot of people are looking up to want to be, maybe not necessarily people from my region or your region, but there's a lot of people out there who are training Sambo right now because they want to go to the UFC to be like Islam Makhachev. And they're all going to be doing relatively what you see him do, which is grapple, wrestle, hold people down, and make other people, say that it's the worst fights they've ever seen of all time. But he's the champion, and he does it against the people who are the highest level of mixed martial arts. And, you know, uh, along that line, I know I'm going to give two answers here, but you got to go with Ilya fucking Taporia, man. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Now, he's a little different because not everybody's going to be able to just walk in and knock everybody's heads off like that. I think Islam's a more attainable, idea for people to gravitate to, like, oh, wrestling, like that's something that, I don't need God's gift of fucking stone hand to fucking accomplish. Ilya, on the other hand, I think people are going to start looking up to this dude, and he's going to he already transcends the sport, dude. What he's done is already crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your answer here?
Well, I mean, along the same lines of what you're saying, I mean, I think that if you asked me that question maybe like 2 years ago, I could say Alex Pereira, but I think he's already done his influencing in the sport. I would say maybe
True.
unless he goes up to heavyweight and maybe there's a little bit more as a triple champion, that could be its own version of what you're saying. But I want to kind of take a little bit of a different approach to it, and I feel like I'm giving these answers, and it's like, oh, you're just trying to be the big brain guy over here, and I'm really not trying to do that. But if the question is the influence on mixed martial arts as a whole, the answer that I would say is I want to say someone, it might not be him, but I'm going to say him anyway. I want to say someone like a Fares Zayam, and I'll tell you why. Because what we have seen is mixed martial arts was just legalized in France a couple of years ago. We literally saw the first French card, I think, 2 years ago. And before that, the sport was illegal. Someone like that in a region where the sport had not been legal for a long time, I think could be a major inspiration. So that's why I like when you said Ilya Taporia. I think that like someone from a somewhat underrepresented region in Spain, Georgia obviously has more representation, but Spain, he reps a little bit there. I think that someone like that grows the sport in his home country. Fares Zayam grows the sport in his home country. I would say someone even, and I know that this is the craziest one, but someone like Ananshul Jubli. I know that he's not the greatest representative of India, but India is a massive population that is underserved when it comes to mixed martial arts. These are the regions that are going to be growing in the sport over the years. And I think that these are the types of fighters that end up bringing those regions into the forefront.
Yeah, I think maybe if you would have asked me at the beginning of 2025, who would I think would be the most influential? Joshua Van, guys. I mean, representing Myanmar. I mean, he just
Yep.
became the champion. He really put the Asian community on the map. People don't even know where Myanmar is, and now they know that it's a place. Another person, and this is my answer for 2026 because I think we got a lot of good things coming here. Melky Costa, out here representing for the vitiligo, and I think influential. Talking about influence, this is somebody that people can look up to. People out there who suffer from the disorder as well, they can look out and think things are possible because people out there are able to accomplish things with the same disorder that they have. It's not something that necessarily holds everybody back. They can have the confidence that I could reach for the stars and do something like that. Melky Costa is going to go ahead and be my answer. I think I like that one.
I like it too. If only Ryan Loder could have done a little bit better, our dyslexic king.
Yeah, I know. It
But
sucks.
no, but I like the answers though, and I mean, you're like we're talking about influence in general. That's why I like it as a regional thing because like you have mass. Think about how big this planet is, guys. I mean, like there are billions of people on this planet, many of them in regions that are not represented in our sport currently. That's when I talk about influence. That's where I think the sport is going. It's going to be expanding into regions that are underserved currently, and people like a Fares Zayam, a Benoit Saint Denis, Chris Duncan out in Scotland.
Mm.
I mean, think of how many Scottish fighters you can name off the top of your head. 3. I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about. These regions of the world, like, even to an extent, like, I'm surprised that Marvin Vittori was not more influential for Italy.
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I
So,
mean, I agree with you there. I think a lot of these you're pulling some really good names. I think the Anshul Jabli was actually a really good one. Puja is
Pucha
also.
Tamar, sure.
But you asked the questions of like you're surprised there's not many Italian fighters, but what about the Czech Republic? They have like the coolest fucking fighter of all time, and they have a woman who sucks in the UFC. Like that's the
So,
only other option we got.
yeah,
So
there you go. So I mean, that again, if we're talking in the big picture, that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to like influence in the sport in general, is underserved regions of the world coming into the forefront.
I respect that. I like it.
All right. Well, then that brings us to our final question here. Let me bring it up. Um. All right. Well, I mean, I think that we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but we can kind of give a more definitive answer here. Which fighter do you predict to have the biggest downfall for 2026?
Ooh, biggest downfall for 2026. See, and this is a multi-layered question because when you say downfall, losing one fight isn't a downfall. So you
Right.
actually have to have somebody who's decently active, because off the top of my head, I'm like, Michael Chandler's got to fall off this year, but like he's only going to fight one fucking time. So it really doesn't matter. He may not even fight this year. Colby Covington's another one that comes to mind. Maybe is 2026 the year that he finally is gone, but will he actually fight enough that he gets moved out of the rankings enough? Benil Dariush is another one of those. It's like the downfall for these guys. It's not going to be as quick as a downfall would lead to believe that we're talking about for 2026. Somebody who's active enough that we're looking for a really immediate downfall. It's got to be some really crap prospect. I mean, Ebo Aslan probably, dude. Like, I mean, the downfall has already started, but like he could get two more fights and lose them bad. And like,
Well, but yeah, but I think that the caveat on that though is that if they're not up high enough to begin with, then is it really even a downfall? You know what I mean?
true, true. Let me
Well, let
think
me
here.
get
Yeah,
think
go
think
ahead,
about it
go
a
ahead.
little bit. I'll give my answer. I think it's already been in the works, so I've already mentioned him once. I'll mention him again. I think that Marvin Vittori is one that comes to mind for me. He's already on a backswing. I think that he's been figured out. He's a guy that, yeah, he's very, very tough, but he is beatable by almost everybody at this point. I think that he's going to have a pretty solid bad year this year.
Yeah, middleweight actually might be cooking because there's two people that are also about to have this downfall in middleweight. Israel Adesanya potentially if he loses to Joe Pyfer, and then the next one, this is where a lot of people are going to get their feelings hurt, and I'm sorry, but Robert Whitaker, guys,
Yeah.
2026. I mean, what can you say?
Sure. That actually, Israel Adesanya was going to be another one of my answers. And God, I mean, I don't know why it's all middleweights, but another one that comes to mind, especially after what happened in his last fight, Reinier de Ritter could be
Oh,
also on that chopping block.
I was gonna say Kelvin Gastelum, but the downfall's already begun for that motherfucker, dude.
Well,
So
yeah, that's the thing is like, how do you define the biggest downfall, right? I mean, no,
yeah.
if we're talking about just in the biggest of terms, you could have a fighter who's on top. I don't want to go too deep into the details, but if things were different in Ilia Toporia's outside of activity circumstances, then there could be a downfall depending on how you define it. But if we're talking strictly in fight terms, I think Rainier de Ritter with the quitting on the stool just perceptionally has broken him. So he really needs to get a win. If not, then there's a potential downfall there. You said Israel Adesanya. I thought that was going to be my other answer. So
I think potentially if Song Yadong wins, guys, we're watching the witness of Sean O'Malley's downfall right there.
I said it when we were talking about it. That is definitely true. So yeah, I mean, it depends on how you define it and what the circumstances are. But it feels like a lot of the guys at the top sometimes, two bad losses can really change the perception. So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
So, I mean, those are the three questions. And if you would like to ask us questions, we're not going to necessarily do it every episode because on most of our episodes, we go a lot longer than this. So, we don't want to necessarily be doing 4-hour shows every week. But if we do have, next week's fights like this episode was where we have a little bit extra time at the end, we will be doing Q&As. And if you would like to ask us a question, you can join the Discord, put your questions in the Discord. We will get you those links or whatever. Make sure that it's in the description of the stream here on YouTube, and you can ask your questions in there. We will let you know which episodes we are taking questions for ahead of time.
Absolutely. And once again, thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys have been keeping up with us, not only just for tonight, but the entirety of the shows that we've had every Monday night. And you guys are just awesome. It's almost been, we're going on however many years it is, 2, and it's awesome. And it's just really great. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys and just keep supporting. And you guys are doing great.
Yeah, the support has been tremendous already, and it is very much appreciated. So thank you for that. One more time, just so that you know, I am at youtube.com/@YamaShow. I am at YamaShow on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. Chase, where can they find you?
youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And if you still use Twitter and call it that, it is at Creative Partin, Partin.
It will always be Twitter to your boy. Yeah, thanks again, guys. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.